Imagine a colossal stone slab, tipping the scales at around 1,200 tons, hewn straight from unyielding bedrock, hauled over miles of rugged landscape, and hoisted into position with pinpoint accuracy. This isn't some imagined future tech. It's Baalbek, Lebanon, and it's merely one among many ancient locations that leave contemporary engineers puzzled, forcing them to concede that even with cutting-edge tools today, the methods remain elusive. Tonight, we'll embark on a voyage back in time, scrutinizing the tangible remnants of societies that pulled off engineering marvels defying our grasp of historical tech advancement. Forget notions of extraterrestrials or supernatural forces. We're focusing on confirmed, recorded, quantifiable feats you can still go see, feel, and analyze firsthand. We're discussing craftsmanship that halts today's designers in their tracks, loads that prompt current builders to rethink their math, and methods we haven't completely cracked. Our tale kicks off not with outlandish ideas, but with straightforward inquiries. How could they slice granite so finely that no razor edge slips into the seams? How did they shift boulders that challenge our heaviest cranes? How did they craft resonant spaces whose sound qualities top audio experts can scarcely match? How did they orient buildings to heavenly objects with such exactness, hinting at profound astronomical and mathematical insight? These aren't the ravings of fringe thinkers. They're real enigmas that scholars in archaeology, engineering, and physics have grappled with for more than 100 years. The solutions, where they exist, often prove more captivating than any made-up tale. And in cases of true unknowns, the enigma itself sparks even greater wonder. We'll dive in with the iconic case, not the most baffling, but the one most thoroughly probed, quantified, and chronicled. We're heading to the Great Pyramid of Giza. You might figure you've got the basics down. 3 pyramids rising on a plateau near Cairo, erected as royal burial sites by legions of laborers dragging limestone via ramps. That's the classic tale drilled into classrooms for ages. And yes, elements of it hold true. Yet once you delve into the real data, assess the exactitude, and crunch the operational details, the Great Pyramid reveals itself as vastly more intricate than a mere grave. It once towered 481 feet high, assembled from about 2.3 million blocks of stone, mostly ranging from 2.5 to 15 tons apiece, though certain granite pieces in the king's chamber hit 80 tons. The foundation spans 13 acres. Now, the intriguing part, that base sits perfectly even, deviating by no more than 2.1 centimeters. That's under an inch of difference over sides exceeding 750 feet long. Today's pros, armed with laser tech and satellite positioning, find it tough to match that flatness across such vast expanses. Pause and consider it. You're maneuvering multi-ton rocks. You're erecting on a mix of sand and irregular bedrock. You're limited to copper, timber, and rock tools. Still, you nail a base that's nearly flawlessly level, off by less than an inch. That's beyond remarkable. It's phenomenal. It shows the old Egyptian builders wielded advanced surveying methods and oversight standards. The 4 faces point to the cardinal points, north, south, east, west, with precision surpassing 1/5 of a degree. For context, that's sharper than the alignment of England's Greenwich Observatory, constructed millennia later using scopes and fine-tuned gear. Without advanced gear, how did the ancient Egyptians nail this orientation? The usual answer points to the night sky. Tracking circumpolar stars, those that stay visible without dipping below the view, they could pinpoint true north effectively. The approach used a Merkit, a basic plumb device with a sight for monitoring stellar paths. By noting a star's rise and fall spots and splitting the line between them, true north emerges. It's clever, reliable, and demands just keen watching plus basic math. Achieving that kind of exactness in practice demands real patience, expertise, and a solid grasp of how celestial bodies move. The pyramid's edges are aligned almost flawlessly at 90 degrees. Overall, the monument reveals an extraordinary command of geometry, pointing to sophisticated math skills. Interestingly, if you divide the pyramid's base perimeter by its height, the result is strikingly near 2 pi, the exact proportion between a circle's circumference and its diameter. Certain experts believe this proves the Egyptians were aware of pi and wove it purposefully into their architecture. Counterarguments claim it's simply an outcome of their chosen side angles during planning. Scholars still argue over it, yet the accuracy stands beyond question. Now consider the sheer scale of building it, which pushes the feat into mind-boggling territory. Sticking to the accepted history, the Great Pyramid rose over Pharaoh Khufu's 20-year rule, so those 2.3 million stones needed sourcing, hauling, and positioning within 2 decades. That breaks down to roughly 115,000 stones annually, even if crews toiled non-stop 365 days yearly, which is unlikely, factoring in Nile floods and holy observances. We're talking about 315 stones daily. For a 10-hour workday, that's over 31 per hour, or 1 every 2 minutes, non-stop for 20 years. Ponder the implications. Every couple of minutes, a hefty stone block, tons heavy, got cut from a quarry, carted potentially miles distant, dragged onto an ever-rising pyramid, and slotted in with sub-millimeter accuracy, all for 2 straight decades. Such coordination would test today's top builders, even armed with cutting-edge gear. Contemporary trials confirm it's feasible in theory to shift and hoist these stones via inclines, pulleys, and hordes of workers. Digs at Giza have uncovered ramp remnants, along with settlements housing thousands of toilers, plus ovens churning out bread for vast crews. Egyptian copper implements, aided by gritty sand and endless effort, could indeed shape limestone. Thus, the orthodox account holds up. It's merely staggeringly, near impossibly demanding. What gives pause to engineers, though, is the assembly itself. The stones aren't merely piled, they're interlocked with astonishing tightness. Often the seams are so snug, a razor blade won't fit. This holds true not only on the outer faces for show, but deep within sealed corridors meant to stay hidden post-build. Why bother? For a mere burial mound of rock, what's the point of flawless joins everywhere? The logical conclusion: the artisans cared deeply about their craft. They upheld rigorous ideals. Far from rote obedience, these were talented professionals convinced that every stone, visible or not, warranted impeccable placement. This insight illuminates key traits of ancient Egyptian society. They prized excellence and exactitude intrinsically, beyond mere optics. The inner rooms hold their enigmas, too. The king's chamber uses massive granite pieces shipped from Aswan quarries 500 miles off. Just floating those granites along the Nile was a Herculean task. Its roof consists of 9 granite beams, each around 50 tons, bridging the full span sans intermediate pillars. Over it lie 5 stress relief voids to spread the pyramid's crushing mass, preventing roof failure. Such foresight reveals deep engineering savvy. The Egyptians comprehended weight-bearing and pressure zones, realizing millions of tons overhead would fracture the king's ceiling without relief. Hence, they stacked 5 hollow levels above, each with its slabbed top, easing the burden downward step by step. And it endured. 4,500 years on, the king's chamber roof remains intact, with no buckling or major shift, outlasting plenty of today's structures after mere decades. Their methods drew on timeless principles that today's experts still admire. Precision even touches sound dynamics, though intent remains contested. Voices in the king's chamber echo at a distinct pitch. Studies reveal it boosts some tones and mutes others. Strike a note near 440 Hz, the standard concert A, and the space hums in harmony. Certain sound waves get soaked up and muted instead. Could this have been on purpose? Were the ancient Egyptians savvy enough about sound dynamics to craft rooms tuned to particular audio traits? That's still up for debate. They might have simply observed these sound behaviors and viewed them as something spiritually profound without intending to create them. Alternatively, these sonic features could just be an unintended side effect stemming from the chamber's overall build and the stones used. Those granite surfaces on the walls and roof bounce echoes in predictable patterns. The room's form and scale generate inherent echoes on their own. Regardless of whether it was deliberate design, these traits are real, something we can test and confirm every time. That said, before diving into wild theories, it's worth sticking to what established archaeologists agree on. The Egyptians were unparalleled constructors, honing their pyramid methods across many eras. Take the earlier ones like the Step Pyramid of Goza or the Bent Pyramid at Dashuri. They reveal obvious steps forward and trial and error efforts. Dioza's pyramid, constructed circa 2650 BCE, basically piled up mastabas in layers as a way to test out the shape. In the Bent Pyramid, the team adjusted the slope midway through, likely because the initial pitch was causing stability issues. These projects stand as tangible proof of a society evolving and perfecting its methods. The Great Pyramid marks the peak of all that progress. When Khufu's team started designing it, the Egyptians already had more than 100 years of stone construction experience under their belts. They knew the successes from the failures. Their systems for overseeing workers were advanced, and they built bureaucracies that could orchestrate huge endeavors. Generations of stonemasons, measurers, and planners had passed down their expertise. That level of accuracy came from meticulous preparation, expert handiwork, and a vast labor force marshaled by a strong central authority. The sky-based orientations? They could manage those by tracking stars, especially the ones that stay visible all night for alignment. Hauling those enormous stones, ramps, pulleys, and coordinated teams of thousands would do it. This account is likely spot on. Still, nothing beats being there in person, gazing up at those colossal granite slabs, tracing seams so seamless they defy belief, or crunching the numbers on the insane amount of effort packed into just a few decades. It leaves you in awe every time. The standard story doesn't strip away the enigma of the Great Pyramid. If anything, it heightens the wonder by showing how people with basic gear and genius-level coordination pulled off a feat that stuns us thousands of years on. But it's hardly the only standout. When it comes to baffling feats of exact engineering from antiquity, the Great Pyramid doesn't even top the list. For that title, head to Peru, up in the lofty Andes, to Pumapunku. Pumapunku forms part of a bigger ruined site tied to Tiwanaku in Bolivia, roughly 45 miles west of La Paz. Perched at around 12,800 feet high on the Altolano Plateau, the location alone is daunting. Oxygen's scarce up there, fatigue hits fast, and any strenuous work wears you out in no time. Despite that harsh environment, the Tiwanaku people erected one of the planet's most finely wrought stone setups. Their culture thrived from about 500 to 1000 CE, although a few elements might date back further. Fresh digs point to origins stretching to 1500 BCE or beyond, positioning Tiwanaku as one of South America's most enduring societies. Pumapunku's real marvel isn't its antiquity or scale, impressive as those are, but the impeccable craftsmanship in the rocks. The pieces consist of andite and sandstone, with some tipping the scales at more than 100 tons each. They're shaped with level faces, spot-on 90-degree corners, and elaborate puzzle-like connections that evoke today's high-tech, milling over old-school quarrying. Plenty of them boast razor-straight borders and polished finishes that suggest slicing rather than hammering or scraping. Let me drive this home for you. We're not discussing crudely approximated chunks that sort of mesh. These are stones with planes, so even that a pro-level ruler laid against them reveals zero space underneath. The borders are crisp and pristine, as if machined by a power saw instead of bashed and smoothed by primitive implements. The vertices align at true 90 degrees precisely, not just roughly so, angles that'd pass muster under a contemporary engineer's caliper scrutiny. Several include full-depth H-shaped grooves drilled clean through hefty slabs, with sides that run dead parallel and faces flattened to an astonishing degree. When examined using today's high-tech measuring devices, those cuts reveal surfaces level to less than a millimeter's deviation. The corners form perfect right angles at 90 degrees. The depth stays consistent throughout each groove. This goes beyond mere adequacy. It's flawlessly executed. Such accuracy mirrors what contemporary stonemasons produce with diamond blades and computer-guided machinery. The truly astonishing part, andesite ranks around 7 on the Mohs hardness scale, a tough volcanic material outlasting most steels in durability. Iron or bronze implements simply can't mark it. Shaping it demands either tougher implements or grinding methods with sand and water paired with gentler tools, or repeated pounding using other rocks to gradually erode the surface. Each approach demands immense time and effort, and hitting pinpoint accuracy proves challenging. The Tiwanaku builders lacked steel, relying mainly on bronze and rock tools. Yet bronze yields faster than andesite under stress, so their chisels would degrade first. So what allowed them to reach this exacting standard? Mainstream archaeology points to a mix of methods: pounding with durable river rocks as hammers, grinding with sand abrasives, and pouring vast resources into prolonged manual labor. Native Andean groups have showcased age-old carving skills that yield notable outcomes through steady, hands-on effort. Still, the finesse seen at Pumapunku stretches the limits of what we'd expect from pre-modern tools. The uniformity stands out even more. Numerous stones share the exact same dimensions, angles, and H-pattern incisions. This points to a deliberate uniformity, a structured approach to sizing and oversight that guaranteed uniformity in production. These couldn't be guessed at casually. Meticulous checking with gauges was essential to verify that one piece aligned seamlessly with another, ensuring components interlocked as intended. Clearly, the creators followed blueprints. They weren't improvising on site. Detailed criteria existed, along with guides or gauges. Rigorous benchmarks were upheld time after time through skilled execution. This degree of coordination and expertise qualifies as advanced, no matter the era. Certain stones bear tiny, regularly placed perforations bored straight through. These openings show striking consistency in diameter and penetration. They seem drilled smoothly, not hammered or gouged, a rarity for a society missing drills tougher than the rock itself. The bores are round and pristine, lined with even interiors and level bases. Creating such neat cylindrical voids in andesite using bronze implements begs the question. A few experts theorize a tubular borer with sandy grit as the cutter. A metal pipe, likely copper or bronze, filled with moist sand, twisted under downward force. The grains do the eroding, hollowing out a tidy circle. This method echoes practices from Pharaonic Egypt, applied to bore into granite and similar tough rocks. It succeeds, albeit tediously. A lone hole could require hours or days based on its size and reach. Alternative views suggest the Tiwanaku sourced superior rocks for bits, like quartzite varieties or rare iron from meteorites, capable of piercing andesite, though such artifacts are scarce. In reality, the precise method for these flawless, repeatable bores eludes full certainty. Their presence proves feasibility, yet the process retains an aura of enigma. Undeniably, Pumapunku stands as a monumental feat in architecture, probably a sacred precinct or ritual hub crafted by a cultured society versed in core engineering concepts. It boasts interlocked blocks with exact joins, signs of a flexible building system using uniform modules for varied layouts, plus features revealing deep insight into math and shapes. Spanish conquistadors stumbled upon it in the 16th century, already decayed. Area folklore attributed it to colossal beings or deities, implying locals deemed their forebears incapable of such feats. Formal digs only commenced in the 19th century. Through the years, countless blocks were carted off for reuse in buildings and even a railway's foundation. Today's remnants form an enigma, often in disarray. The pieces lie jumbled, displaced from their intended spots, complicating efforts to reconstruct the original form. Attempts have been undertaken to restore the site's initial form by examining the matching patterns and balanced design of the remaining stones. Pumapunku seems to have been an elevated platform featuring meticulously cut stone surfaces, along with potential open areas and rooms. The intricate preparation needed to assemble it using uniform yet elaborate connecting stones points to a level of building expertise that matches the finest achievements from other ancient societies. Engineers are particularly drawn to Pumapunku for its signs of meticulous organization and exactness. These stones weren't shaped individually by artisans improvising on the spot. Instead, they were engineered to connect in particular configurations, complete with dovetail-like joints and consistent dimensions. This points to the constructors following detailed blueprints that included strict guidelines and control measures. They possessed a clear concept and the expertise to bring it to life with extraordinary precision. The standard account credits the Tiwanaku inhabitants as highly proficient masons who refined their methods across centuries, reaching such accuracy via dedication, talent, and meticulous work. While this holds true without question, it in no way lessens the feat. Rather, it underscores the depth of advanced engineering prowess in the Americas before European contact, a body of knowledge that often gets downplayed or ignored in common views of early cultures. The Tiwanaku society was intricate and refined. Their farming innovations, like elevated fields, are just starting to gain recognition from today's experts in agriculture. They maintained extensive commerce routes throughout the Andean region. They crafted superior fabrics, pottery, and metal items. They erected urban centers and landmarks that supported crowds numbering in the tens of thousands. And at Pumapunku, they proved their ability to handle stone with a finesse that continues to astonish contemporary experts. Shifting from South America, we head to Lebanon's Baalbek in the eastern Mediterranean, site of what may be the boldest ancient masonry on the planet. To grasp the utmost boundaries of what early people could achieve in moving stones, Baalbek demands your attention. Baalbek, referred to as Heliopolis during Roman rule, the Sun City, houses some of the biggest and heaviest rock slabs ever employed in building projects throughout recorded history. The location has seen continuous habitation for millennia, with edifices from Phoenicians, Greeks, and Romans stacked upon one another. Yet the standout feats of engineering lie in the base of the Jupiter Temple, where gigantic limestone pieces known as the trilithon have been integrated into the platform. The trilithon comprises 3 colossal slabs, each roughly 19 meters in length, 4 meters across, and 3.5 meters high. Each one tips the scales at between 800 and 1,200 tons by rough calculation. To put it plainly, that's over 1,000,000 pounds apiece. These rank among the heaviest monoliths ever relocated and positioned in any human endeavor. They're not even the biggest ever extracted from the earth. In a nearby old quarry sits a bigger one dubbed the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, or Hajar al-Hibal, estimated at 1,000 to 1,200 tons. And there's the Stone of the South, nearing 1,650 tons. Both remain somewhat embedded in the rock face, unfinished and unmoved. However, the 3 trilithon stones were fully severed from the bedrock, hauled roughly a quarter-mile across rugged landscape, hoisted about 20 feet off the ground into place, and aligned so flawlessly that the seams are nearly invisible. Consider the implications through today's engineering lens. The most powerful contemporary cranes for heavy construction can manage 1,000 to 2,000 tons at best, in perfect setups with advanced hydraulics, digital stability systems, balancing weights, and exact computations. These behemoths are vast, costly, and need flat surfaces plus thorough preparation. You couldn't simply maneuver them over bumpy paths to hoist multi-thousand-ton rocks. The ancient engineers at Baalbek lacked such hydraulics. They had no metal ropes, fuel-powered motors, or automated hoists. Still, they somehow extracted these behemoths from unyielding rock using methods we can only guess at. They moved them a quarter-mile over hilly and irregular land. They elevated them 20 feet high into their spots, and they slotted them into a barrier with surrounding stones, creating connections so seamless that it's hard to tell where one ends and the next starts. How on earth do you transport a stone weighing 1,000 tons? The standard theory suggests rolling these massive rocks along wooden cylinders or rounded stones with the help of vast ramps and a workforce numbering in the thousands. In theory, it could work, but the sheer scale of the operation boggles the mind. Those stones would have to inch along at a snail's pace, handled with extreme caution to avoid any tipping or splitting. Just a minor shift in balance under that immense load might send it crashing down, wrecking the stone and likely claiming the lives of numerous laborers. The rollers would demand exceptional durability. No run-of-the-mill timber would do. It would splinter instantly beneath the pressure. Instead, you'd require hefty cylinders of dense hardwood, perhaps reinforced with metal hoops, meticulously carved and kept in top condition. And you'd need a constant supply, swapping them from rear to front as the boulder advances. Those ramps would have to be rock solid, likely demanding more building material than the stones they support. Elevating a 1,000-ton block 20 feet high calls for a ramp with a very shallow incline, perhaps 1 in 10 or gentler for safety, which translates to at least 200 feet of length and breadth, robust enough to bear the stone's weight, along with the rollers and crew. Erecting such a structure and then tearing it down afterward would amount to a colossal engineering feat on its own. The level of synchronization beggars belief. Thousands of people hauling or shoving together, heeding cues, and making tiny corrections non-stop to ensure the behemoth stays steady and on course. A single error, one team yanking too forcefully or slacking off, could spell catastrophe. The labor would drag on tediously, pose grave risks, and drain everyone involved. Yet humanity has pulled off such synchronized feats before, given strong leadership and drive. What keeps scholars up at night is figuring out who truly hauled and positioned the Trilon stones. The Romans undeniably erected the Temple of Jupiter, perched overhead, backed by engravings, chronicles, and design elements pointing to 1st century CE Roman handiwork. But did they also extract and install the trilithon blocks? Or did they simply reuse stones from some prior era that were already in place? A few experts argue that the Romans, while constructing the temple, integrated blocks quarried and set by some lost predecessor society. This idea stems from a handful of clues. For starters, the trilithon blocks clash with the Roman temple's building approach above them. They're shaped and polished differently from standard Roman masonry. They rest at a peculiar slant compared to the surrounding architecture, and they're vastly bigger than the typical Roman fare, even in their boldest endeavors. The Romans were engineering wizards, after all. They raised the Colosseum, the Pantheon, with its enormous concrete dome, sans internal supports, and aqueducts stretching miles to channel water over rugged terrain. They mastered arches, domes, and lime-based concrete, honing advanced methods and marshaling huge crews for monumental builds. But usually they stuck to modest, uniform blocks that cranes and muscle could handle. In their most epic works, stones seldom topped 50 tons, deploying 800-ton behemoths, 3 of them no less, flies in the face of Roman norms. That's prompted some to theorize the trilithon came from an earlier Phoenician or even Prythanian group, later folded into the Roman temple. The Phoenicians held the area prior to Roman times and dabbled in megalithic builds. Structures like the fortifications at Bablos and Sidon feature hefty stones, though none rival the trilithon's scale. The snag with this notion? Zero solid proof. No etchings on the trilithon blocks name their makers. No unmistakable design traits pin them firmly before the Romans. No digs uncover relics or features tied to the blocks from a pre-Roman age. The stones just loom there, enormous and enigmatic, their backstory shrouded. What we know for sure is that at some juncture, a group succeeded in extracting, shifting, and hoisting stones beyond 1,000 tons each. Our uncertainty about the method or the culprits doesn't render it unfeasible. It highlights the phenomenal challenge, demanding top-tier ingenuity, teamwork, and assets that inspire awe. It's interesting to point out that shifting colossal stones wasn't exclusive to Baalbek. Plenty of ancient locales boast jaw-dropping megablocks. Stonehenge's Sasson stones tip the scales at up to 50 tons. At Atlantic Tambo in Peru, walls incorporate blocks from 50 to 100 tons. The Osiris in Egypt saw 100-ton granite slabs transported and set in place. Yet Baalbek stands out distinctly due to the enormous scale of its trilithon stones and the remarkable accuracy in how they were positioned. The enigma of Baalbek serves as a reminder that ancient builders occasionally surpassed what we'd consider practical or feasible by today's measures. It prompts us to question our preconceptions regarding the feats ancient societies could pull off using the limited implements and methods at their disposal. Moreover, it instills a profound admiration for the vision and expertise of those who insisted on incorporating 3 1,000-ton monoliths into their temple's foundation. Shifting from colossal masonry to more compact yet baffling items, we encounter workmanship that appears to demand contemporary equipment. This leads us into a contentious area where established archaeologists and fringe theorists clash most intensely. Therefore, we should proceed with caution, examine the facts, and strive to grasp what's truly before us. Across Egyptian dig sites, you'll discover granite and basalt items sculpted with astonishing finesse. vases featuring slender, elongated necks and broad forms, excavated entirely from single chunks of tough rock, bowls with walls thin to near transparency in spots, sculptures boasting flawless finishes and precise balance, and, most strikingly, relics displaying signs of lathe-like turning, with surfaces so even and rounded they resemble factory output. In the Cairo Museum sits an array of stone containers, many from the pre-dynastic and early dynastic eras prior to 2500 BCE. Crafted from schist, granite, diorite, or porphyry, all notoriously resistant materials tough to shape even today, these pieces sport slim openings, occasionally only an inch or two across, paired with expansive, emptied cavities carved from solid blocks. Certain examples maintain consistent wall depths across intricate contours. Others include integral handles hewn from the identical stone as the main form, necessitating the extraction of material from confined angles unreachable by basic hand implements. How might one excavate such a container's interior via a constricted opening armed solely with copper implements and grinding agents? Contemporary testers have demonstrated feasibility through extended copper pipes packed with quartz sand as a cutting medium, twirled manually or via bow-driven drills. You thread the pipe via the aperture, introduce the sandwater slurry, and spin it against the inner surface. Over time, the grit erodes the rock. It's laborious and painstaking, demanding immense dedication and artistry, yet achievable. Still, replicating the exacting symmetry and consistency in select ancient examples proves elusive even using current equipment. When experts in archaeology and engineering try mimicking these with period methods, they manage comparable contours, but the walls vary more in depth and the insides feel rougher. The old world artisans produced outcomes that strain the boundaries of manual labor. Certain containers reveal traces of rotational crafting. Peering within, one spot's tidy, concentric rings uniformly spaced, implying the object turned on a pivot or shaft during shaping. These scoring patterns closely mimic those from today's lathe-turn components. Christopher Dunn, an engineer specializing in precision who has delved deeply into Egyptian antiquities, notes that particular stone basins exhibit traits linked to advanced milling. Flawlessly round profiles, steady wall gauges amid winding designs, and polishes hinting at rapid tooling over gradual sanding. His measurements on some items reveal roundness accuracies to within thousandths of an inch, a level usually calling for motorized devices. The standard view holds that Egyptians were masterful artisans who honed unique approaches across centuries. They might have employed rudimentary turning devices, a basic axle spun by hand or bowstring, as the worker pressed a steady cutting edge to the revolving rock. The blade, likely arsenical bronze tipped with quartz grit, combined with relentless practice to attune to the stone's nature, could yield nearly mechanical results through sheer human ingenuity. This account makes sense. People can attain stunning accuracy via profound mastery in their trade. Think of medieval scribes rendering minuscule details invisible without magnification, or today's hand-stone sculptors fashioning intricate, exacting pieces with simple gear. Our skepticism toward Egyptian prowess reflects our detachment from age-old artisanal traditions more than any true impossibility. Yet another level of precision in ancient stonework raises even greater questions. Consider the granite sarcophagi within the Serapeum at Saqqara. This subterranean facility served as a burial site for sacred bulls linked to the deity Apis. It features a network of tunnels hewn directly from the bedrock, with large chambers branching off them that house these immense granite containers. Each one is colossal, fashioned from a single piece of Aswan granite that tips the scales at 70 to 100 tons, lid included. They span about 4 meters in length, 2.3 meters across, and stand 3.3 meters high, with walls roughly 30 centimeters thick. What truly captivates is their extraordinary accuracy. The interfaces are astonishingly level, tested using contemporary straight edges and optical flats. Certain examples reveal flatness to within mere hundredths of a millimeter over spans of several meters. The inside edges are crisp and neat, forming perfect 90-degree junctions. The sides align parallel to one another with minimal deviation. In some instances, the lids seal against the boxes so tightly that they form an airproof fit. Evidence points to these being excavated from whole granite monoliths rather than pieced together. That implies artisans removed dozens of tons of stone from the core of each block, all while sustaining straight walls and exact right angles every step of the way. The hollowed spaces adhere to exact measurements, hinting at deliberate designs and reliable gauging instruments in the builder's toolkit. When precision engineer Christopher Dunn inspected them, he was floored. With years in the field of machining under his belt, he spotted traits reminiscent of industrialized processes: the evenness of the planes, the sharpness of the angles, the steady thickness of the sides. In today's factories, such qualities would point to advanced grinders or CNC machines. Dunn has contended that producing such smooth granite faces usually demands dedicated abrasives or powered tools. He highlights how those inner corners achieve such keen definition, a challenge for manual methods, where confined spaces limit tool control. Hand polishing a nook often leads to subtle rounding, whereas razor-sharp results call for either expert finesse or mechanized steadiness to apply uniform force at precise orientations. Conventional Egyptologists respond that while remarkable, this level of workmanship could stem from meticulous manual labor, copper blades charged with quartz sand for cutting, then laborious rubbing and buffing to refine. They emphasize the Egyptians' millennia of honing their masonry arts. Our skepticism regarding such feats often reflects our own biases more than the limits of age-old practices. Precision, after all, is contextual. Up close, the Serapeum sarcophagi reveal minor inconsistencies and flaws. A factory-forged item would boast finer uniformity and stricter specs. These pieces align with the output of elite artisans who invested immense effort and expertise. The discussion persists, but one thing stands firm: the craftsmanship is real and measurable, standing out as exceptional regardless of era. Be it lost methods or sheer dedication and ingenuity, they mark a pinnacle in ancient lithic engineering. This prompts a larger inquiry. How can we gauge the potential of prehistoric implements? Our views on what ancients could accomplish frequently draw from scant trials in experimental replication. We mimic old tools for brief sessions and deem complex tasks unfeasible or cumbersome. Yet those original makers spent lifetimes mastering their craft, building innate proficiency, material savvy, and inherited know-how across eras. What baffles us in short experiments might have been everyday mastery for them after prolonged dedication. Even so, the finesse seen in places like the Serapeum and Pumapunku strains the edges of plausibility. It implies capabilities in ancient workers that we might undervalue or overlook. Did they possess rediscovery-worthy secrets? Or does it simply underscore the untapped depths of human talent? That's still up for debate. Now let's pivot to an entirely distinct ancient innovation, one so advanced that uncovering it compelled scholars to overhaul their notions of early society's ingenuity: the Antikythera mechanism. Back in 1901, Greek sponge divers exploring near the tiny island of Antikythera stumbled upon a shipwreck from roughly 70 to 60 BCE. The vessel was loaded with opulent items, bronze and marble statues, fine jewelry, elegant glassware, and various other valuables, likely en route from Rhodes or some other Greek isle to Rome. One of the items pulled from the depths was a rusted clump of bronze and wood that barely raised eyebrows at first. It resembled a lumpy stone embedded with bits of metal. Curators tagged it vaguely as an old clock or star tracking tool and tucked it away. Years turned into decades while the enigmatic object languished in the vaults of Athens' National Archaeological Museum. Now and then, a scholar would poke at it, spot what looked like gear components, and then shift focus to flashier finds. Only in the 1950s did experts start grasping its true significance. After meticulous cleaning to strip away the rust in scans via X-ray, they uncovered a marvel, an intricate machine boasting scores of finely crafted bronze gears, inscribed dials, and an elaborate setup of mechanics unmatched by any relic from the ancient era. This was the Antikythera mechanism, destined to reshape everything we thought we knew about Greek ingenuity from antiquity. At its core, the Antikythera mechanism functions as a geared calculator, basically an early analog computer. Its purpose: to forecast the locations of stars and predict eclipses far into the future, perhaps even to monitor the 4-year rhythm of the ancient Olympics. It relies on an advanced array of no fewer than 30 bronze gears, and likely upward of 40, with multiple ones stacked on shared axles to form elaborate gear chains. The sheer refinement is breathtaking. Among its features is differential gearing, where two separate inputs merge to generate a single output, a concept echoed in the differential systems of modern automobiles, enabling wheels to spin at varying rates during turns. Such differential setups vanished from records after this, not resurfacing until the 14th century astronomical clocks of the Middle Ages, more than 1,300 years afterward. The Greeks pioneered this technology, applied it here at least once, and then it faded into oblivion for over 1,000 years. Those gears sport razor-sharp teeth, some barely a millimeter across, linked in intricate sequences that simulate the paths of the sun, moon, and wandering planets across the zodiac. Through epicyclic arrangements, it replicates the moon's oval path, factoring in how its pace shifts, speeding up or slowing down along the way. This reveals the creator's grasp of Hipparchan lunar theory, the pinnacle of ancient astronomy crafted by the Greek stargazer Hipparchus, circa 150 BCE. The front face sports a round panel displaying the Greek zodiac alongside an Egyptian calendar. The zodiac circle breaks into 12 segments for the signs of the stars, while the calendar band marks out the 365 days. Indicators point to the sun and moon spots relative to these. Flipping to the rear reveals a pair of expansive spiral scales. The top one tracks the 19-year Metonic cycle, aligning solar and lunar years, since 19 sun cycles nearly match 235 moon phases. Below it, the 223-month Saros cycle charts eclipse timings. The whole thing could pinpoint upcoming eclipses, even specifying visibility from particular spots. It handled queries like, where's Venus headed in 3 months? When's the next moon eclipse? What's the moon's phase a year from now on that date? Is now ideal for the Olympics? Vital concerns for the ancients, tied to faith, farming, and festivals. Consider the implications. We're not talking a basic almanac or shadow clock here. This is a full-fledged sky simulator, shrunk to a wooden case the size of a boot box, complete with a manual crank to wind forward in time and observe pointers shifting across heavenly maps. Crafting it demanded ages of effort, blending deep insights into the stars, numbers, and machine design. When scholars in the 1950s and 60s finally decoded the Antikythera mechanism's secrets, plenty doubted the Greeks could pull it off. It felt impossibly cutting edge. The old view held that ancient tech stayed primitive. Fancy gear systems were a later medieval breakthrough at best. Some figured it must be a wrongly aged medieval gadget, or maybe an outright fake. However, with the buildup of further proof, like the decoding of inscriptions on the device via cutting-edge imaging methods, and CT scans exposing its inner workings, it grew impossible to deny that the mechanism was truly from antiquity, crafted in the 2nd or 1st century BCE. The bronze composition aligned perfectly with other Greek pieces from that time. The inscription style echoed Hellenistic Greek conventions. The celestial information inscribed matched the Greek night sky from that epoch. All these elements verified its status as a legitimate relic from the past. This revelation compelled technology historians to overhaul their views on what ancients could achieve. The tidy story of steady advancement from basic to advanced tech had to be scrapped. Today, we recognize that Greek artisans of old could fashion elaborate geared systems with accuracy rivaling 18th century timepieces. They grasped intricate mechanics, such as differential gears. They engineered multifaceted mechanical setups. They possessed the math to simulate planetary paths with impressive precision and the craftsmanship to craft functional prototypes from it. A lingering puzzle for scholars remains. Was the Antikythera mechanism a solitary marvel, or just a surviving piece of a wider ancient legacy in mechanical innovation that has largely vanished? Old writings offer intriguing clues. The Roman thinker and speaker Cicero recounts a planetarium by Archimedes that depicted the paths of the sun, moon, and the 5 recognized planets. Cranking it, he noted, revealed eclipses and the differing paces of heavenly objects exactly as seen overhead. That account closely resembles the Antikythera device. Might Archimedes have paved the way? Did it employ comparable tech? The works of Hero of Alexandria from the 1st century CE outline numerous contraptions like self-opening doors, vending machines run by coins, and even an early steam engine, albeit as a novelty rather than a power source. It's evident Hero drew from advanced mechanical expertise. Might he or those before him have produced something akin to the Antikythera mechanism? In Athens, the Tower of the Winds, erected circa 50 BCE, housed an elaborate water clock displaying hours, seasonal shifts, and perhaps stellar events. Its driving gearwork is gone, yet it surely demanded clever engineering to perform so many tasks. Such fragmented mentions imply the Antikythera mechanism stood as no outlier. It likely represented part of an ancient craft in devising mechanisms, a craft advanced enough for geared star calculators, self-operating gadgets, and exact timekeepers. Most vanished because bronze proved too precious to discard or enter. Once damaged or outdated, they got melted for reuse. The Antikythera mechanism endured only due to sinking at sea, shielded from looters by ocean depths and sediment. Today's replicas, assembled by experts and artisans, demonstrate it was feasible with period tools. Bronze cogs can be shaped with files and chisels, demanding vast dedication and expertise. The elaborate gear sequences could be planned with Greek-era mathematics. The whole assembly fit within a properly stocked ancient forge. What the Antikythera mechanism irrefutably shows is how misguided our preconceptions of ancient tech often are. We usually picture progress as a straight line, with early folks wielding crude implements and scant insight, slowly evolving to our current expertise. Yet history operates differently. Insights can emerge and fade. Refined methods might arise, thrive briefly, then slip away amid shifting conditions, be it conflicts raising scholarly hubs, economic shifts rendering items too costly, or fresh inventions supplanting the prior. The Antikythera mechanism stands as evidence that 2 millennia back, certain minds held the expertise and prowess to create what wouldn't recur for more than 1,000 years. That expertise flourished, served its purpose, and then evaporated. What more slipped away? What further talents did our forebears wield, unknown to us because traces didn't last, shifting from clever contrivances to grand structures, but delving deeper into the past this time? We'll head to southeastern Turkey to explore potentially the planet's earliest grand-scale building. This location upended our grasp of early human history. Göbekli Tepe came to light in the 1990s, even if local herders had long been aware of the mound. When excavator Klaus Schmidt launched in-depth digs in 1995, he soon grasped he'd uncovered an exceptional find. The location dates back to around 9,600 to 8,200 BCE, or about 11,000 to 13,000 years ago, right at the close of the last ice age. Its creators belong to the pre-pottery Neolithic era, a time when pottery hadn't been developed yet. Based on classic views of human progress, these folks were supposed to be basic foragers and hunters, roaming in small nomadic groups. Yet that classic view turned out to be mistaken. Göbekli Tepe demonstrates it clearly. The complex features numerous round and elliptical enclosures, some hewn straight from the underlying rock, while others incorporate enormous T-shaped limestone monoliths. These pillars are striking, reaching heights above 15 feet and masses between 10 and 20 tons. They form circular patterns, with a pair of bigger ones in the middle and slimmer versions outlining the edges. Overall, the layout evokes a ceremonial shrine. Beyond their sheer scale, the pillars boast elaborate engravings depicting creatures like foxes, lions, bulls, scorpions, serpents, birds, wild pigs, gazelles, along with geometric motifs. The workmanship is precise and lifelike, portraying beasts in dynamic stances, not rough sketches etched hastily, but refined artwork from talented stoneworkers. Göbekli Tepe's importance goes beyond its antiquity. Impressive as that is, it reveals the true potential of foraging communities. Conventional archaeology insisted that grand structures demanded farming as a prerequisite. The logic was straightforward. Such endeavors need crowds of laborers committed over long stretches. Sustaining that workforce in a fixed spot calls for steady provisions, hence cultivation. Foragers, by contrast, supposedly couldn't assemble in sufficient size or linger anywhere long enough for temple building. Göbekli Tepe shatters this notion. It predates farming entirely. Its builders still pursued game such as gazelles and boars, foraged uncultivated flora without taming grains like wheat or barley, or animals like sheep or cows. Yet they managed intricate designs and large-scale builds. Erecting Göbekli Tepe demanded forethought, coordination, and collaboration at levels once deemed out of reach for non-farming groups. Extracting and hauling those hefty T-pillars involved orchestrating sizable teams. The source quarry lies roughly a quarter-mile away. Laborers shaped them from the stone bed with basic implements, dragged them overland to the spot, and hoisted them vertical into dug sockets, each 10 to 20-ton piece needing scores of hands, likely aided by cords, logs, and earthen slopes. Sculpting the intricate scenes called for expert carvers handling rock with finesse and creativity, overseeing the grounds, managing labor squads, provisioning the participants, and hosting any rites. There added layers of demands. This all points to enduring societal structures far richer than experts once imagined for hunter-gatherers. The ramifications run deep. Our standard chronology for human societies must shift to fit Göbekli Tepe, indicating that elaborate builds and advanced communal systems came before farming rather than after. Perhaps the imperative to construct and sustain hubs like this one, likely central spots for periodic rituals, spurred farming's rise. To nourish throngs converging at a holy locale, groups might have begun planting native cereals nearby, ensuring supplies for those key occasions. This reverses the old story. Rather than farming sparking civilization, the urge for shared assembly sites and intricate rituals may have pushed agriculture forward as an essential tool. Certain pillars at Göbekli Tepe bear enigmatic etchings that a few scholars see as celestial indicators or logs of sky phenomena. Pillar 43, dubbed the Vulture Stone, includes reliefs that some link to star patterns visible circa 10,950 BCE. Martin Sweatman from the University of Edinburgh argues the markings on it symbolize a comet strike or atmospheric explosion that could have sparked the Younger Dryas chill, an abrupt weather change around 800 BCE. He reads the icons as stellar groupings like Scorpius and Sagittarius, arrayed as they appeared on a precise day of a possible cosmic collision. Such ideas spark fierce debate, though. Most experts regard the art as emblematic or ritualistic, not literal star charts. Critics point out that interpreting precise astronomical information from these engravings demands assumptions about the meaning of each motif, and those guesses could easily be wrong. Any similarities to star patterns could simply be chance or pareidolia, spotting shapes that aren't really there. Yet this ongoing discussion raises a fascinating issue. Just how advanced was Stone Age astronomy? Could foragers from 12,000 years back monitor the heavens closely enough to etch their findings into rock? We recognize that subsequent ancient societies possessed intricate star lore. The Mayans constructed observatories and devised calendars of stunning precision. Stonehenge's creators oriented the structure toward solstices. Egypt's ancients positioned pyramids along cardinal points via star sightings. Might such expertise have arisen sooner, predating farming? It's entirely plausible. Our brains functioned identically back then as now. If folks gazed at the stars night after night across generations, and nomads free from city glow surely did, they'd spot rhythms, constellations, annual drifts, planets' steady paths, lunar phases, repeats. Whether Göbekli Tepe's etchings captured this remains debatable, but it's hardly out of the question. What stands out is how Göbekli Tepe's makers outshone the stereotype of primitive foragers. They boasted communal structures, craft expertise, and ritual depth to craft a legacy that awes us after 11,000 years. Around 8,200 BCE, the site got intentionally entombed. Laborers methodically packed the enclosures with earth and rubble, sealing them up. Why pour vast effort into raising these edifices, employ them for maybe a millennium, then seal them away on purpose? The motive escapes us, but concealing such an immense setup implies forward thinking and potent spiritual or ceremonial drives. Maybe its role was complete. Maybe doctrines shifted, demanding a dignified shutdown of the old shrine. Maybe the interment itself formed a profound rite laden with import. Regardless, that entombment shielded Göbekli Tepe through ages, letting today's diggers unearth and probe it. Through that work, we've grasped that folks erected grand, intricate builds millennia ahead of schedule, that layered communities thrived pre-farming, and that our grasp of deep history keeps evolving with fresh finds. Shifting now to the globe's best-known megalithic marvel, Stonehenge on Salisbury Plain in southern England. This wonder has sparked wonder for ages, yet past its striking silhouette, it embodies keen celestial insight and engineering prowess. Stonehenge didn't spring up overnight. It developed across about 1,500 years, starting circa 3000 BCE, with key updates lasting to around 1500 BCE. Today's visible form layers various building stages, each revealing fresh methods and skyward aims. The initial stage, near 3000 BCE, featured a ringed trench and embankment plus timber stakes, already keyed to summer solstice dawn and winter solstice dusk, proving stellar watching drove the place from the start. Its builders were Neolithic growers, fresh to farming in the British Isles by 2500 BCE. In the Bronze Age, the setup got a radical upgrade. That's when the huge sarsen stones arrived in rows. These are the famed uprights, some tipping 50 tons. Hauled from Marlborough Downs, roughly 20 miles off, shifting 50-ton behemoths across land with streams and slopes was a staggering accomplishment. Experts figure it took hordes of hands dragging them via log rollers, likely slicked logs easing the slide. But hauling was just the start. The sarsens got meticulously carved and polished, hammered with maulstones, remnants of which litter the grounds, faces smoothed out, posts tapered subtly skyward, an optical illusion boosting their height and poise. Antisis, a trick echoed in Greek designs like the Parthenon, pinnacle of all. The cap lintels crowning the uprights linked via clever woodworking. Those lintels employ mortise and tenon fittings. Protruding tenons from the tops of the upright stones slot precisely into corresponding mortise sockets hollowed out on the bottoms of the lintels. Furthermore, these lintels were linked side by side with tongue and groove connections, forming an unbroken circular band. Astonishingly, this level of carpentry expertise was executed in enormous rocks, each tipping the scales at multiple tons. Such a feat stands as a remarkable engineering marvel. Moreover, the lintels needed to be hoisted up to roughly 13 feet high and positioned with exacting accuracy to ensure the joints interlocked properly. In what way could Bronze Age engineers elevate stones of such immense weight to those elevations? The prevailing theory points to the use of wooden scaffolds or earthen ramps, incrementally lifting the lintels via levers and wooden bracing, followed by meticulous guidance into place. This process must have been hazardous and labor-intensive, demanding meticulous coordination and implementation. The celestial orientations at Stonehenge extend far beyond mere solstice indicators. The structure orients toward not only the summer solstice dawn and winter solstice dusk, but also intricate lunar patterns. The Aubrey holes, 56 depressions encircling the inner bank, might have served to monitor the 56-year span of the moon's extreme standstills when its rise and set points stretch to their farthest north and south extremes. Scholars like Gerald Hawkins, along with contemporary figures such as Alexander Thom, have argued that Stonehenge operated as an advanced astronomical tool for forecasting eclipses and charting extended lunar rhythms. Although these ideas spark debate, precise measurements have verified that many viewing lines across the site correspond to key solar and lunar positions throughout the seasons. This implies the constructors possessed profound insights into heavenly movements, built up through generations of vigilant skywatching. They grasped not only the annual sun path, but the intricate 18.6-year lunar progression and potentially the 56-year lunar outlier cycle. Acquiring such expertise would have necessitated steadfast recording over dozens or hundreds of years, documenting the ascent and descent points of stars and planets across seasons, discerning trends, and ultimately incorporating that wisdom into the site's architecture. At the heart of the Sarsen Circle lies an inner horseshoe of bluestones. These compact boulders, ranging from 2 to 4 tons apiece, originated in the Preseli Hills of Wales, more than 150 miles distant. The method and motivation behind hauling these particular rocks over such an immense stretch continue to baffle archaeologists. Current studies indicate that glaciers from the last ice age might have carried the bluestones partway, leaving them nearer to Stonehenge, yet geological probes reveal no bluestone outcrops close to Salisbury Plain. Thus, substantial human effort likely covered much of the route. Portions of the trek may have relied on sea and river routes to shorten the land haul, but the undertaking was still monumental. What prompted such exertion? These bluestones might have held profound meaning, viewed as holy, or endowed with curative powers. Later myths from medieval times linked Stonehenge to medicinal qualities, and lab tests highlight mineral compositions in the bluestones that set them apart from nearby rocks. It's conceivable that prehistoric folk regarded them as uniquely potent, justifying the colossal transport endeavor. Fresh digs have uncovered Stonehenge as a component of an expansive ritual terrain. Durrington Walls, situated merely 2 miles off, hosted a vast village from the era of Stonehenge's primary build. Unearthed artifacts include dwellings, fire pits, and traces of grand banquets. It appears thousands converge there, perhaps for yearly rites or building labors. The avenue, a ceremonial route, links Stonehenge to the River Avon. A parallel path ties Durrington Walls to the same waterway. These features hint at ritual parades shuttling between the locations, incorporating river travel in the observances. The whole area was crafted for worship and assembly, centering on Stonehenge as the key edifice. What purpose did Stonehenge truly serve? Absolute certainty may elude us forever. Evidently, it tracked vital sun and moon occurrences for astronomical purposes. It probably acted as a hub for rituals, where crowds assembled for annual rites, sacred ceremonies, or stargazing sessions. Discoveries of graves on site propose it doubled as a hallowed cemetery for notable figures. At minimum, 64 sets of cremated bones have surfaced, tied to the structure's initial stages. What remains indisputable is Stonehenge's embodiment of advanced construction and sky science. Its creators mastered the art of carving and shifting colossal boulders, assembling enduring forms through precise interlocking, and orienting the whole to follow elaborate cosmic patterns. They coordinated vast workforces of hundreds or even thousands of people, kept ambitious building efforts going across multiple generations, and produced a marvel that has withstood the test of more than 4,000 years. Stonehenge serves as a powerful reminder that our ancient ancestors were far from unsophisticated. They possessed profound insights into their surroundings, advanced practical expertise, and the ability to marshal resources for extraordinary endeavors. This enduring structure bears witness to humanity's cleverness, perseverance, and enduring quest to decode the universe and define our role in it. Before shifting our focus to metallurgy, let's delve into one of the most extraordinary and enigmatic substances in early engineering: Roman concrete. This goes beyond mere building components. It's a breakthrough so advanced that in certain respects we've yet to fully replicate it even after 2 millennia. When concrete comes to mind, you might picture the dull gray mixture common in today's projects. It's sturdy, affordable, and ubiquitous, yet it wears down over time. Contemporary concrete edifices usually endure 50 to 100 years before requiring significant fixes or rebuilding. Seawater proves particularly harsh. Today's concrete-facing ocean exposure breaks down fairly swiftly as salt seeps in, rusts the internal steel bars, and leads to fissures and disintegration. Now imagine this. Roman concrete installations from over 2,000 years back remain intact. In fact, some have grown more robust with age. Coastal facilities from Rome, submerged in salt water for 2,000 years, reveal concrete that has actually toughened up through the centuries. The Pantheon in Rome, featuring its enormous dome of pure concrete, 43 meters across, has stood firm for almost 1,900 years without serious issues. What makes this feasible? The Romans referred to their mix as opus cementitium. They combined lime putty with volcanic tuff, plus chunks of rock and debris as filler. The key ingredient, a tuff known as pozzolana, sourced from sites near Mount Vesuvius and other Italian volcanic regions, was rich in silica and alumina. These elements combined with lime and water to form an exceptionally resilient substance. Unlike our method of simply pouring it, the Romans layered their concrete, strategically positioning stones and mortar, then packing each level firmly before proceeding. For grand designs like the Pantheon's dome, they varied the fillers by elevation: denser rock below, porous pumice higher up to lighten the load without sacrificing solidity. The dome tapers upward, shrinking from 6.4 meters thick at the bottom to a mere 1.2 meters at the peak. Such precise handling of composition and form enabled them to construct the planet's largest dome without any reinforcing metal, a feat unmatched to this day. Recent scientific examinations of Roman concrete uncover something truly intriguing. Exposure to seawater doesn't erode it. Instead, it fortifies the mix. Interactions among the brine, lime, and volcanic material generate fresh compounds, including a scarce crystal called tobermorite, laced with aluminum, which develops gradually within the matrix. These formations lock the components even more securely, enhancing durability and fracture resistance. This stands in stark contrast to today's concrete. Our version relies on Portland cement, invented in the 1800s. It hardens fast and builds strength swiftly, suiting fast-paced builds. However, it lacks the enduring toughness of the ancient recipe, particularly against salty conditions. While modern mixes erode in seawater from invading salts, Roman ones thrive in it. Experts from places like the University of California, Berkeley, and elsewhere have long investigated Roman concrete, aiming to unravel its secrets and see if we can mimic it. They've scrutinized fragments from harbors, the Pantheon, aqueducts, and ruins throughout the old Roman domain. Their discoveries indicate that the ancients, via persistent experimentation, grasped intricate principles of materials long before modern chemistry could articulate them. The pozzolana they selected wasn't ordinary. Its unique makeup sparked those vital reactions. Today's scientists have experimented with akin recipes: lime, volcanic ash, seawater, and achieved blends with comparable traits. Still, the Romans drew from ideal local sources, honing their techniques over eras for varied applications. Take the Portus Cosanus harbor in Tuscany, erected circa 273 BCE. Its concrete has endured submersion for more than 2,200 years. Contemporary studies reveal that this concrete contains aluminum tobermorite crystals, which have developed gradually over time to hold the mixture firmly in place. Remarkably, the harbor remains structurally sound and operational even after more than 2,000 years submerged in harsh, salt-laden seawater. Today's engineering can't match that kind of longevity under such relentless conditions. Take the Roman breakwaters and port facilities scattered across the Mediterranean. Numerous ones persist today, either fulfilling their intended roles or enduring as ruins ripe for examination. The Romans designed these against relentless wave battering, perpetual saltwater assault, and the harshest oceanic forces one could envision, ensuring they endured. The Pantheon offers a unique test of their ingenuity. Its dome forms a flawless hemisphere crafted solely from unreinforced concrete. No metal reinforcements, no cables for tension, just the raw concrete and aggregates. The dome's mass generates compressive pressures that push the foundation outward. So to counteract this, they erected enormous 20-foot thick walls at the base to withstand the spreading force. Additionally, they incorporated an ideal oculus, a 27-foot wide circular vent at the apex that lightens the total load while allowing dramatic beams of sunlight to sweep across the interior as the day progresses. This dome has weathered earthquakes, conflicts, its transformation from pagan sanctuary to Christian basilica, and almost 2 millennia of elemental abuse. It holds the record as the planet's largest unreinforced concrete dome. While current engineers can precisely compute the reasons for its stability, the shapes, stress patterns, and substance characteristics, they remain astonished that the ancients accomplished it without such analytical tools. The formula for Roman concrete vanished in the Middle Ages. With the fall of the Western Roman Empire came the erosion of expertise and systems that enabled their construction methods. The prized volcanic ash sources weren't accessible in all regions, and absent the empire's coordinated efforts, grand concrete projects proved unfeasible. Instead, stone and brick took over as primary materials. Only in the 18th and 19th centuries did Europeans revisit concrete experimentation in earnest, culminating in Portland cement's invention. Yet, despite its perks for quick building, Portland cement falls short of Roman concrete's resilience in various uses. This shortfall has triggered major issues. Our contemporary bridges, dams, structures, and ports are crumbling more rapidly than we can fix them, heralding a worldwide infrastructure decay crisis that demands trillions in fixes. In contrast, Roman edifices from 2 millennia past stand firm. Such disparity has reignited fascination with Roman methods. Might we adapt today's concrete to borrow Roman concrete's advantageous traits? That's precisely what scientists are pursuing, crafting novel mixes with volcanic ash or equivalents that foster helpful minerals for enduring strength over mere fast-setting power. The challenge lies in economic motivations. Contemporary building prioritizes expense and pace. Portland cement costs little, ships globally, and hardens swiftly for immediate use. Roman concrete, however, cures slowly, demands rare ingredients, and attains peak robustness only after years or decades. In an era of strict timelines and finances, projects often forgo sustained durability for instant practicality. Yet, confronting the expense of mending failing structures and the ecological toll of cement making, which spews roughly 8% of worldwide CO2, makes the Roman strategy increasingly appealing. Constructing for centuries or eons of service, with substances that strengthen over time and prioritizing endurance beyond bare minimum lifespans. These are enduring Roman insights. What's truly astounding is their empirical approach to this innovation. They lacked insight into pozzolanic chemistry or the microstructure of aluminous tobermorite. Through handed-down practical wisdom, they discovered that combining lime with select volcanic ash in specific manners yielded lasting concrete. They honed the process via experimentation, drawing on collective insights, profiting from hits and misses alike. This pattern echoes throughout ancient innovations. Advanced outcomes sans contemporary science. The Romans couldn't elucidate their concrete's prowess, yet they manufactured it consistently. Practical expertise was embedded in their construction methods. The education of artisans, and the precise guidelines for sourcing materials and blending proportions. This unspoken wisdom handed down from expert masons to their pupils enabled feats that even with our advanced science, we find challenging to match in terms of cost-effectiveness. Think of the Pantheon's concrete, the coastal harbors, the aqueduct systems, and the myriad buildings scattered throughout the old Roman territories. These enduring marvels highlight the ingenuity of Roman engineering prowess. They serve as a powerful reminder that longevity was a key goal in design back then, that structures meant to last for ages could be built using basic resources, and that the ancients devised answers to challenges we continue to wrestle with in the present day. Shifting from Roman concrete, let's explore metalworking. Among humanity's greatest technological triumphs was the mastery of mining and shaping metals. The evolution of metallurgy profoundly reshaped societies, paving the way for innovative implements, armaments, and creative works. A deeper examination of early metalworking practices reveals an impressive level of refinement. The initial metals that people manipulated were those occurring naturally in pure states. Copper, gold, silver, and iron from meteorites appeared in nature with minimal impurities. These could simply be shaped by pounding without any need for melting. Artifacts like gold beads and copper items from 9000 to 7000 BC, unearthed in the Middle East, mark some of the first instances of human metal manipulation. Yet the true game changer arrived with smelting. This involved drawing metal from rock by firing it in ovens. Copper smelting emerged independently in various areas around 5000 BCE. The method calls for raising copper-bearing rocks, often malachite or azurite, to over 1000 degrees Celsius in an oxygen-poor setting. That demands an oven capable of intense heat and careful regulation of airflow to foster the ideal chemical environment for isolating the copper from its matrix. Primitive ovens consisted of basic clay forms, but sustaining 1000 degrees Celsius required savvy in constructing blazes, operating bellows to boost air supply, and relying on charcoal as a fuel source, which ignites far more fiercely than plain wood. Likely spanning countless generations of experimentation, it took persistent refinement to perfect dependable smelting methods. The subsequent advance was bronze, a blend of copper and tin. Stronger and tougher than unalloyed copper, bronze proved ideal for implements and arms. The Bronze Age kicked off circa 300 BCE, when the Sumerians realized that incorporating tin into copper yielded a superior material. This insight might have arisen by chance, perhaps from processing copper rocks laced with tin traces. However, once its advantages became clear, bronze making turned intentional and intricate. Producing bronze involved fine-tuning the copper-tin mix, usually around 90% copper to 10% tin for typical tools and weapons. Excess tin renders it fragile, while insufficient amounts fail to deliver adequate strength. Ancient metalworkers gained this know-how empirically, cultivating an instinctive grasp of how varying mixes performed. Notably, tin is quite scarce globally. Few areas boast tin veins. Thus, crafting bronze necessitated vast trading systems covering hundreds or even thousands of miles. Tin could be extracted from sites in Cornwall, Britain, or Anatolia, Turkey, and then shipped to fabrication hubs in Egypt, Greece, or Mesopotamia. By its very nature, the Bronze Age fostered global connections through elaborate barter routes linking far-flung lands. Techniques for casting bronze grew exceedingly advanced. The lost wax approach, pioneered around 3500 BCE, permitted forming elaborate designs unattainable through mere forging. It starts with sculpting a wax prototype, surrounding it with clay, baking the whole to liquefy and drain the wax, then filling the void with liquid bronze. Breaking open the clay shell yields a bronze duplicate of the wax original. This process facilitated elaborate statues, ornate adornments, and multifaceted utensils. Certain bronze relics display methods that feel remarkably cutting edge. For instance, vessels from China's Shang dynasty, 1600 to 1046 BCE, were molded using ceramic sectional forms with such accuracy that walls maintain even thickness across intricate forms, while ornamental features remain crisp and vivid. These molds needed to align with sub-millimeter exactness, and the molten bronze had to be introduced at a precise heat to fill every nook without flaws. Iron arrived on the scene later, about 1200 BCE, launching the Iron Age. Smelting iron poses greater hurdles than for copper or bronze, as it demands around 1,500 degrees Celsius to liberate from ore. Initial iron outputs were porous and riddled with contaminants, necessitating multiple cycles of reheating and forging, the bloomery method to yield workable material. The pivotal innovation involved managing carbon levels. Unadulterated iron tends to be quite malleable. However, adding carbon while heating through charcoal smelting transforms it into steel, an alloy of iron with 0.2 to 2% carbon that's far tougher and capable of maintaining a keen edge. Long ago, metalworkers stumbled upon this through trial and error, noticing that particular ores or methods yielded tougher results, and eventually realizing the charcoal played a key role in that improvement. One standout achievement in early metalworking was Damascus steel, crafted in the Middle East from roughly 300 BCE until 1700 CE. These blades were legendary for their durability, pliability, and that signature rippling or damask-like pattern on the blade's surface. Today's scientific examinations show it incorporated carbon nanotubes and cementite nanowires, endowing it with remarkable qualities. The artisans behind Damascus steel lacked any grasp of the underlying reactions. They just recognized that starting with Wootz ingots from India and applying precise cycles of heating and forging led to unmatched weapons. Those methods vanished around 1700 CE, likely due to depleted raw material sources. Contemporary experts in material science have attempted to revive it, achieving partial results. We can now fabricate steels with comparable traits via advanced methods, yet faithfully reproducing the old ways proves difficult, as it relied on unspoken expertise handed down from teacher to student via direct practice, without full documentation. This highlights a crucial aspect of ancient innovations. So much depended on practical know-how, grasped intuitively rather than through abstract principles. Early metal crafters intuitively applied effective approaches without delving into the reasons behind them. Over countless generations, they refined complex processes via persistent trials, layering insights from prior efforts. Once that oral lineage fractured, the expertise could evaporate entirely. Despite surviving artifacts, we see this with other vanished ancient inventions, like Greek fire. Deployed by the Byzantine Empire between the 7th and 13th centuries CE, this flaming concoction was a fluid that ignited on water and resisted dousing. In fact, water intensified its blaze. It provided Byzantine fleets with a game-changing edge in naval warfare. Historical records paint it as a horrifying force, almost otherworldly in its ferocity. The precise recipe for Greek fire is gone forever. It was evidently derived from petroleum, likely featuring naphtha, quicklime, sulfur, and additional components. The quicklime might have triggered self-ignition upon wetting, though the full blend and production details stayed as closely guarded imperial mysteries, shared solely among the ruling elite and select experts. With the empire's collapse, so perished the secret. Today's chemists have devised assorted flammable compounds that echo its behaviors, but matching the authentic mix remains elusive. It serves as a stark reminder that ancient societies held niche skills that often went unrecorded, vulnerable to disappearance amid shifting times. Beyond basic forging, ancient metalwork involved advanced blending and finishing methods. Roman craftsmen produced ferritic nitrocarburized iron, infusing nitrogen and carbon into the outer layer to yield razor-sharp exteriors on arms and implements. In Japan, sword makers employed analogous approaches for katana, achieving selective tempering so the cutting edge turned brittle hard while the back stayed supple. The Lycurgus cup, a 4th century CE Roman vessel of cut glass, displays dichroic traits. It looks greenish under ambient light, but glows red when illuminated from behind. Recent studies uncovered embedded gold and silver nanoparticles in the glass, responsible for those striking visual shifts. Roman glassworkers harnessed nanoscale effects sans any physics knowledge, merely aware that trace additions of gold and silver in controlled manners generated stunning hues. Ancient metalworking underscores that high-level tech didn't demand contemporary scientific insight. Via steady testing, keen watching, and inherited wisdom, early makers devised methods we continue to respect and occasionally fail to match. They might not have articulated their craft in chemical or engineering terms, yet their outputs endure as feats of brilliance. Among the grandest feats of ancient ingenuity stand water control systems. Societies thrived or crumbled depending on how well they harnessed water. For hydration, farming, flood defense, and sanitation, ingenious builders devised intricate setups to steward this vital element. The aqueducts of Rome stand as iconic marvels, embodying antiquity's pinnacle of construction. In its prime, the city drew from 11 such channels, delivering around 300 million gallons daily from springs as distant as 60 miles. While many aqueducts consisted mainly of subterranean conduits, some boasted impressive arched structures of stone that spanned valleys to transport the channels. The Pont d'Arc in southern France rises almost 50 meters high, channeling water over the Garden River Valley. Constructed from stones cut to fit tightly without any mortar, it depends on meticulous design and the stone's own mass for support. The elevated waterway follows a subtle incline, descending only 2.5 centimeters every kilometer, which allows gravity to guide the flow at a safe pace without erosion. Achieving and sustaining such exact slopes across many miles demanded advanced techniques in measurement and construction. Roman builders employed tools such as the corbates, a lengthy plank equipped with suspended plumb lines, and the groma, a device for setting perpendicular lines to guarantee precise levels and directions. They recognized that water always finds its level, requiring the conduit to slope steadily downward. In areas with valleys, they erected arcades to support the channel. For mountain obstacles, tunnels were excavated at times. The Acacia tunnel segment runs for miles through bedrock. This water served purposes beyond mere consumption. The city featured numerous public fountains, 11 grand bathhouses, and latrines with continuous flow. The bath complexes consume millions of gallons each day. Such abundant supply sustained a population exceeding 1 million in Rome, something unfeasible with just nearby wells or the Tiber River. Yet Roman ingenuity in hydraulics wasn't unique among ancient societies. The Carnat system, originating in Persia circa 1000 BCE, offered an alternative for handling water in dry regions. A carnat is a subterranean passage bored into an aquifer near mountain bases. enabling groundwater to descend naturally via gravity to settlements and farmlands in the valleys below. Carnats can extend for dozens of miles. Some reach over 40 kilometers. Workers hand-dug them, starting from vertical pits positioned 30 to 60 meters apart along the intended path. Teams operated from various shafts at once, precisely determining angles to connect sections smoothly and preserve the needed slope. These shafts facilitated digging, airflow, and ongoing upkeep. The brilliance of the Carnat lies in accessing underground reserves without exhausting them. With gravity-driven flow, no mechanical lifting is needed. It remains viable long-term as long as aquifers replenish through rain and melting snow. Carnats continue operating in places like Iran, Afghanistan, and sections of North Africa, with certain ones functioning uninterrupted for more than 2,000 years. The Nabateans, who dominated caravan paths in modern-day Jordan from roughly 400 BCE to 100 CE, created one of antiquity's most advanced water networks in their stronghold of Petra. Situated in an area with merely 6 inches of annual precipitation, Petra nonetheless housed up to 20,000 residents at its peak. The Nabateans harnessed every bit of moisture. They etched grooves into rock walls to redirect storm runoff into embedded conduits. Dams formed storage basins. They devised piping from pottery, with joints using tapered sections, each pipe narrower at one end, to build pressure for brief uphill pushes. Built-in settling areas let debris settle, avoiding blockages. Petra's waterways featured exact slopes, often falling mere centimeters across extended lengths. These included elements familiar to today's experts: joints for thermal expansion to avoid fractures, spillways for surplus, and controls for regulating volume. So expertly crafted, components of the setup still operate after 2 millennia. The ancient Indus Valley Society, flourishing from 3300 to 300 BCE, pioneered some of the world's first citywide waste management infrastructures. Urban centers such as Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa included enclosed sewers beneath roads that gathered household runoff. Residences featured washing zones linked to this network. The sewers used bricks joined seamlessly, with access points spaced for inspection and clearing. Notably, this advanced drainage predated equivalents elsewhere by 1,000 years or longer. It indicates the Indus Valley people prioritized hygiene and community well-being, innovating to handle refuse in crowded settings. In ancient China, elaborate irrigation networks emerged, exemplified by the Dujiangyan system erected around 256 BCE and operational to this day. It channels water from the Min River to nourish the Chengdu Plain through an ingenious layout that avoids any need for barriers. Rather than relying on barriers, a man-made eyelet splits the waterway, routing one branch toward farmland and letting the rest follow the river's usual path. This setup regulates itself effectively. In times of heavy rains, surplus water automatically channels into the primary flow, while the farmland branch draws just the right amount. Come the dry months, the split guarantees a steady supply for irrigation. To clean out buildup, workers occasionally reroute the flow briefly for sediment clearing. Yet the core mechanism operates on its own, free from intricate mechanisms. Such early hydraulic projects often exhibit similar traits. They harness nature's power instead of fighting it. Constructed with robust materials and reliable design basics, they reflect profound insights into water flow, earth sciences, and hands-on building. Numerous examples remain operational even after thousands of years, highlighting the expertise of their creators. The ingenuity of these old waterworks underscores how past societies tackled survival challenges head-on. Dependable water supplies were essential for urban growth, With them, societies thrived. The innovations they devised highlight human creativity and the strength of knowledge handed down by expert builders over eras. Shifting from hydraulics to another remarkable ancient feat, the Nazca lines in Peru. These vast drawings carved into the arid ground spark intriguing inquiries into early mapping, shapes, and intentions. The Nazca culture produced them from approximately 500 BCE until 500 CE. Situated in southern Peru's Nazca Desert, one of the planet's most parched regions, with under an inch of annual rainfall, this aridity has kept the designs intact for more than 1,500 years, suffering little wear. Artisans form the patterns by clearing away the desert's rust-tinted, iron-rich stones to reveal the pale soil below. They piled the displaced stones as outlines along the edges. This straightforward method yielded enduring lines and forms. The natural crust shields the uncovered areas, and the scarcity of precipitation prevents any fading of the designs. The immensity stands out. Over 800 linear paths, 300 shapes, including trapezoids, rectangles, triangles, spirals, plus around 70 depictions of creatures and flora, like spiders, hummingbirds, monkeys, condors, and assorted vegetation, cover the area. Certain paths stretch straight for kilometers. One extends almost 30 kilometers without straying. The wildlife motifs vary from roughly 100 feet to exceeding 1,000 feet in length. What elevates this as engineering is the precision in scaling. The spider, spanning about 150 feet, captures exact body ratios, limb extensions, and fine points through geometry. The hummingbird, surpassing 300 feet, holds true scaling that's identifiable despite being too immense for ground viewing. Producing them demanded advanced measurement methods. The Nazcas scaled from compact sketches to sprawling hundreds of feet artworks, preserving true ratios. They set benchmarks, gauged spans accurately, and sustained alignments or gentle bends across vast expanses. Studies show basic implements, wooden posts, cords, and elementary sighting could suffice. For linear paths, peg a sequence of markers along the route with cord and visual alignment for straightness, then clear pebbles within. For bends and motifs, pivot cords of differing spans from hubs to trace curves and loops. Merging lines with curves builds intricate forms. Still, grasping the methods doesn't lessen the feat. Holding courses straight across miles of sandy expanse calls for endurance and exactness. Shaping motifs with correct ratios at colossal sizes demands forethought and meticulous work. Designers sketched miniatures, then oversaw crews to replicate them enormously over the barren land. Debates persist on the Nazca line's role. They seem ritualistic or spiritual in nature. Such effort wouldn't go into mere utility. Some experts link them to water worship and fertility rites. Numerous paths aim at distant peaks as water origins, and others match solar positions on key calendar dates. In such a barren setting, water holds divine status. The lines might serve as tributes or pleas to deities governing precipitation and springs. Alternative views propose they acted as ritual routes, with participants traversing them in sacred marches. These linear paths might have served as routes for processions linking holy locations. Discoveries from digs reveal that shards of pottery and ritual gifts were deposited at key spots along these paths, bolstering this viewpoint. The depictions of animals and shapes likely carry deep significance tied to Nazca beliefs about the universe and spirituality. Take the spider, for example. It's linked to rainfall and fertility in Andean traditions. The condor holds a revered status as a holy bird. Such images could symbolize star patterns or legendary entities. A widespread yet improbable idea posits that the lines were designed for overhead observation, hinting at early aviation or signals for deities in the heavens. Although viewing the lines from the sky offers the best perspective, crafting or employing them didn't demand flying. The Nazca inhabitants had no need to behold the full designs. They followed their designs and grasped the emblematic purposes. Primarily, these lines fulfilled ritualistic and emblematic roles that didn't depend on being seen from up high. Ultimately, the Nazca lines highlight an advanced grasp of geometric principles and land measurement, meticulous preparation, and the mobilization of workforce, alongside a societal emphasis on ritual and symbolic displays that justified pouring vast resources into these grand creations. Unlike aqueducts or structures, this represents a distinct form of engineering, yet it calls for comparable expertise in measurement, strategy, exact implementation, and group coordination. The enduring nature of the lines offers a key insight too. Under ideal circumstances, basic modifications to the soil can endure for thousands of years. Consider how many more ancient feats could have dotted landscapes where weather and terrain were less kind. What portions of history have vanished due to weathering, plant growth, and material reuse? The Nazca lines endured not from superior sturdiness in construction, but from their location in an arid zone where decay scarcely occurs. This prompts a fascinating question. Could comparable wonders from other ancient regions have simply faded away? We're aware of the Nazca lines thanks to the desert's safeguarding effect. Elsewhere, what vanished without trace? Prior to our concluding thoughts, one additional domain of ancient prowess merits discussion: medicinal expertise and pharmacology. The depth of early healing practices frequently astonishes contemporary experts, underscoring how our forebears possessed greater insights into cures than commonly acknowledged. Key Egyptian documents on medicine, such as the Edwin Smith Papyrus and the Ebers Papyrus, both from roughly 1550 BCE, though drawing on far older wisdom, exhibit extraordinary proficiency in healthcare. The Edwin Smith Papyrus functions like a handbook on surgery, detailing 48 cases of traumas along with therapies. It follows a logical sequence: inspection, identification of issues, suggested interventions, and outcome predictions. Notably, it adopts a logical, evidence-based method. The document outlines wound inspections, fracture detection, and evaluations of whether harms can be cured or prove deadly. Absent from the core content are spells or divine rites. Instead, it stresses precise scrutiny and effective remedies. Egyptians recognized how particular brain traumas led to distinct signs, how backbone damages might result in immobility, and how certain gashes were beyond saving. The Ebers Papyrus delves into bodily ailments and lists more than 700 formulas for diverse ills. Today's examinations confirm the efficacy of numerous such treatments. Willow bark, rich in salicylic acid, the precursor to aspirin, eased discomfort. Honey served as an antimicrobial cover for sores. Garlic supported heart function. Castor oil acted as a purgative. Though Egyptians lacked knowledge of underlying chemical processes, empirical testing and watching helped them pinpoint materials with real healing benefits. In ancient India, Ayurveda fostered intricate pharmacological insights. The Sushruta Samhita, composed circa 600 BCE, outlines over 300 operations and 120 tools for surgery. It provides thorough guidance on procedures like excising cataracts, fixing hernias, and reconstructive methods for noses, early rhinoplasty. Certain approaches weren't revived in Europe until the 1700s and 1800s. The work advocates using wine for sedation in operations, marking an initial anesthesia type. It advises trainees to rehearse on deceased creatures and wax figures prior to human procedures. Hygiene and tool sanitization get strong emphasis. This reflects advanced, structured training in medicine, traditional Chinese healing, advanced needling therapy, plant-based drugs, and assessment methods still practiced now. The Yellow Emperor's Inner Canon, assembled around 100 BCE. It outlines the concepts of qi, or vital energy, the equilibrium of yin and yang, and the network of meridians central to acupuncture practices. Contemporary studies indicate that acupuncture offers benefits for specific ailments, especially in alleviating pain. The underlying processes remain partially mysterious. Traditional accounts relying on qi and meridians may not hold up entirely to scrutiny, yet clinical trials have confirmed the practical benefits of placing needles at precise locations to ease pain and various symptoms. Traditional Chinese herbalism cataloged numerous botanicals boasting real healing effects. Artemisinin extracted from sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua, serves as a primary therapy against malaria today. For more than 2 millennia, Chinese healers had employed this herb against fevers long before scientists purified the key ingredient during the 1970s. Tu Youyou, who directed the team discovering artemisinin, received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2015. Such honors highlight how time-honored wisdom continues to fuel breakthroughs in contemporary healthcare. The ancient Greeks and Romans left enduring marks on medicine as well. Hippocrates, circa 460 to 370 BCE, transformed the field into an organized pursuit, stressing meticulous observation, documentation, and explanations rooted in natural causes over divine intervention. The Hippocratic corpus compiles numerous writings on illnesses, their signs, and remedies. Galen, circa 129 to 216 CE, a prominent Roman doctor, performed in-depth dissections and formulated doctrines that influenced medical thought for over a millennium. Although certain ideas proved flawed, like his view of blood as perpetually generated and depleted instead of circulating, his commitment to methodical examination and testing laid crucial groundwork for scientific medicine. Surgeons in antiquity executed impressively intricate operations. Trepanation, the practice of boring into the cranium, occurred across diverse societies, with archaeological traces from Peru, Egypt, Greece, and beyond. Healed cranial remains suggest that numerous individuals endured and recovered from these interventions, likely aimed at easing intracranial pressure from trauma or addressing migraines, seizures, and psychological issues. The method demonstrated remarkable skill. Certain early societies grasped the value of community hygiene initiatives. In Roman urban centers, sophisticated drainage networks, communal bathing facilities, and rules governing food purity and water supply were commonplace. Lacking insight into microbes, they nonetheless noted how hygiene and clean resources curbed outbreaks. The scope of ancient pharmacology was impressively broad. A 2015 analysis of Mesopotamian cuneiform records revealed remedies for diverse conditions. Experts identified an array of herbal, mineral, and faunal ingredients in Assyrian prescriptions. When matched against current drug compendiums, a substantial portion revealed active agents effective against the targeted disorders. This recurring theme underscores a key insight. Through generations of attentive watching and experimentation, early healers discerned viable treatments and methods. Devoid of modern insights into chemistry or pathogens, they nonetheless built a solid repository of effective cures. Safeguarding and sharing this expertise demanded advanced teaching frameworks. In pharaonic Egypt, temple-based academies instructed apprentices via scriptural study and hands-on mentorship under seasoned doctors. Comparable approaches thrived elsewhere, securing the handover of wisdom across eras. Examining this historical practices teaches us that true scientific progress hinges not on cutting-edge tools or abstract models, but on diligent scrutiny, structured trials, rigorous documentation, and openness to insights from triumphs and setbacks alike. Ancient healers embodied these principles, yielding insights and methods that often stood unchallenged for hundreds or thousands of years. One more domain of ancient ingenuity warrants mention: monumental earthen constructions. Though rock-hewn wonders like pyramids and megaliths often steal the spotlight, some societies relocated even vaster quantities of soil in endeavors that transformed vast terrains. The Cahokia Mounds in Illinois form the most extensive pre-Columbian earthen complex north of Mexico. Constructed by the Mississippian people from around 600 to 1400 CE, the location features more than 120 earthen heaps over 6 square miles. The grandest, Monk's Mound, stands as the largest ancient dirt structure in the North American interior, spanning 14 acres at its foundation and climbing roughly 100 feet across 4 levels. It incorporates about 22 million cubic feet, or around 814,000 cubic yards, of soil. Laborers transported every bit by hand in woven carriers, scoop by laborious scoop, without beasts of burden, carts on wheels, or any machines. It was all achieved through coordinated human effort spanning countless generations, with workers transporting earth in baskets to slowly form a colossal platform. The mound's function was probably tied to rituals and governance. At its summit sat a substantial structure, most likely a temple or the home of a leader. Rising so high it could be seen from afar, symbolizing dominance and spiritual influence. The sheer scale of the construction highlights the Mississippian people's ability to mobilize resources and their reverence for grand-scale building. Yet Cahokia was far from the only such site. Across the Americas, from north to south, native societies constructed enormous earthen formations. Only recently have the vast earthworks in the Amazon region come into clearer view, thanks to advanced satellite imaging that uncovers their full scope. In the western Brazilian Amazon, experts have documented more than 450 expansive geometric features, squares, circles, hexagons, and intricate designs spanning up to 350 acres apiece. These were fashioned by woodland communities who felled trees, dug out precise shapes, and shifted millions of cubic yards of soil. Likely used for rituals or communal events, their precise roles are still under discussion. One thing is certain: the Amazon was no pristine wildland. It was a cultivated terrain, shaped by advanced societies that transform their surroundings on an epic level. Over in England, the ancient terrain is dotted with huge earthen monuments. Silbury Hill, dating to roughly 2400 BCE, holds the title as Europe's biggest artificial mound from prehistory. Reaching 40 meters in height, it comprises about 248,000 cubic meters of earth and debris. Similar to those in the Americas, it was assembled purely by manual labor, with laborers hauling baskets filled with chalk and dirt to pile up the immense hill. Silbury Hill's intent is still a puzzle. It wasn't for burials. No graves have turned up in digs. It doesn't line up with any clear celestial points. It just looms there, immense and enigmatic, a tribute to the Neolithic builder's resolve and societal structure. Avebury Henge and other stone rings in England demanded shifting vast amounts of soil to form a ring-shaped trench and embankment around 28.5 acres. The trench was dug initially to 9 meters deep into hard chalk using deer antler tools and animal shoulder bones as scoops. The dug-out chalk went toward raising the outer bank, which once towered 5.5 meters. The whole project entailed displacing around 200,000 cubic meters of chalk. This occurred in the Neolithic era, long before metal implements existed. Laborers pried loose the chalk with antler tools, shoveled it with shoulder blades, and carted it off in baskets. It demanded thousands of individuals laboring for years, perhaps decades, and that covers only the earthen part. The huge, upright stones inside required even more Herculean tasks to source, haul, and position. Such monuments reveal key insights into early civilizations. They managed to orchestrate and uphold huge undertakings over extended times. They synchronized the work of vast groups of people. They designed endeavors lasting years or lifetimes, holding on to purpose and dedication through generations. The challenges in planning were immense. You had to provide food, shelter, and direction for the laborers. You had to pull workers from essential tasks like agriculture, so surplus crops were vital to sustain folks on non-farming endeavors. You required governing systems strong enough for oversight and unity. You needed incentives powerful enough to motivate participation in works that outlasted individuals. Still, societies globally pulled it off. These structures stand as proof, tangible and irrefutable. Early humans remade their worlds, relocated Earth in bulk, and raised enduring icons that overshadow their locales millennia on. Relying solely on physical strength and willpower, absent engines or tech, they executed feats of engineering that inspire profound awe. From the Moai of Easter Island, let's shift to yet another stunning display of ancient ingenuity, Ollantaytambo in Peru. This Inca stronghold and sacred site showcases masonry skills unmatched in other ancient realms, all while perched amid the demanding heights of the Andes. Ollantaytambo perches at around 9,160 feet in Peru's Sacred Valley, some 60 miles northwest of Cusco. It functioned as both a religious center and defensive bastion, with towering stone platforms scaling the slope, and a summit sanctuary boasting some of the Inca realm's finest stone fitting. What stands out most at Ollantaytambo is the Temple of the Sun, an incomplete edifice crowning the terraces. At the heart of this temple stand 6 enormous granite pillars, each tipping the scales at around 50 tons, arranged in a straight line. These aren't sourced from nearby. Instead, they were hauled from a quarry roughly 4 miles distant, on the far side of the valley. Getting them here meant dragging them down one slope, over the Urubamba River, and then hauling them up the opposing incline to the temple's location. Keep in mind, this all happened at elevation, where the oxygen is scarce and physical exertion hits hard. The way these pillars interlock is astonishingly exact. The gaps are so narrow that a sheet of paper would struggle to fit through. Their faces are level and polished, with edges cut at exact degrees. It's a similar degree of accuracy to what we find at Pumapunku, using andesite and granite that's notoriously tough to shape. How on earth did the Incas transport these 50-ton behemoths over the valley? The standard theory points to vast teams, hundreds or even thousands, employing ropes, wooden rollers, and earthen ramps. They'd likely pull the stones on wooden sleds with logs placed beneath to ease the slide, especially for river traversal. In times of high water, rafts might have carried them across, or perhaps they built a short-lived dam to lower the level, allowing drags along the exposed river bottom. Scaling the ascent to the temple probably demanded huge ramps or clever pulley setups. Certain experts theorize the Incas built zigzag dirt ramps along the hillside, winching the stones up in incremental phases. Alternatives include mixing levers with ramps to inch the blocks upward bit by bit. Regardless, it was an epic undertaking, though moving them merely scratches the surface of the enigma. What about that flawless assembly? The Incas lacked iron implements, relying on bronze, stone, and wood. Yet granite outlasts bronze in hardness, rendering metal tools useless for carving. The probable method involved pounding with tougher river rocks as hammers, chipping at the granite bit by bit, followed by sanding and buffing to ensure a snug match. Such work demands endless toil. To level a granite face with stone hammers could consume weeks or months non-stop. Fashioning a 50-ton piece with several planar sides converging at sharp angles, that could span years. Still, the Incas pulled this off time and again, not only for the Temple of the Sun, but across their realm in countless finely joined edifices. Take the renowned 12-angled stone in Cusco, a compact showcase of their skill. It boasts 12 vertices and 12 edges that mesh flawlessly with neighbors, forming total seams. It slots in like a custom 3D jigsaw element, every facet measured to align seamlessly with its mates. One idea is that they sculpted each block for its exact spot, testing the alignment over and over, abrading protrusions until it dropped in without a hitch. But Ollantaytambo reveals yet another wonder, hints of advanced seismic design. The Inca domain sits in an earthquake-prone zone, rattled by quakes often. Today's Peruvian structures incorporate sway-tolerant connections and strengthening elements to endure shakes. How did the Incas handle this in solid rock builds? Their secret is in the stonework. Known as ashlar masonry, Inca walls feature stones trimmed to interlock mortar-free, secured by gravity and meticulous shaping. In a tremor, these barriers can give just enough. The blocks nudge slightly without collapsing. The tight joins and puzzle-like contours ensure that, amid earth shifts, the assembly moves as one and rebounds intact. This beats traditional mortared barriers, which tend to fracture and give way in quakes. Recent experiments confirm that Inca ashlar setups resist vibrations that would demolish standard mortared rock walls. Drawing from trial and error, the Incas crafted a quake-proof method that today's specialists hail as brilliantly sound. The complex also showcases clever hydrology. A network of springs on the slope supplies fountains via carved stone conduits that hold steady slopes, letting water rush steadily, brisk to avoid stagnation, yet gentle to prevent wear. These conduits boast sediment traps for clearing debris and side spills to handle flood surges. Ollantaytambo's farming steps, too, stand as feats of ingenuity. Climbing hundreds of feet along the steep mountainside, these terraces go far beyond simple earthen platforms held by rock barriers. They form intricate farming setups. Every level features several strata, a foundation of hefty rocks for water flow, followed by finer stones, pebbles, and finally fertile soil. Such a setup promotes effective drainage, yet holds on to essential moisture where plant roots can access it. During chilly evenings, the rock barriers capture warmth, forming small environmental pockets that lengthen the period suitable for crops. Remarkably, these terraces continue to support farming operations even now, more than 5 centuries after their creation. A fascinating enigma at Ollantaytambo lies high up on the slope facing the temple, where unfinished rocks seem left behind mid-journey. Some of these boulders, tipping the scales at 50 tons or heavier, rest on the incline like they were in transit when everything halted abruptly. It captures a snapshot of Inca building efforts, revealing insights into their methods. This site of forsaken blocks has sparked various theories. Did the Spanish invasion interrupt their transport and shatter Inca life? Or did another factor cause the halt, perhaps a regime shift, a redirection of construction focus, or mere obstacles faced by the workers. The truth remains elusive, yet these stones offer a chance to examine them in an incomplete form, shedding light on Inca extraction and hauling techniques. What stands clear is that Ollantaytambo exemplifies a masterful strategy for tackling mountainous terrain. The Incas didn't merely impose their will on the peaks. They harmonized with the environment, designing features that blended seamlessly with the existing landforms. Their stepped fields traced the natural curves of the terrain. Their irrigation paths leveraged the inherent slopes. They selected locations for sites that provided both strategic protection and ritual importance. The exactness in their masonry highlights a commitment to excellence and endurance. These weren't fleeting builds, they were crafted for the ages. The immense labor in hauling enormous rocks over valleys and elevations, shaping and assembling them with such accuracy, and devising complex runoff and irrigation networks underscores a society with superior coordination and engineering prowess. Ollantaytambo served a defensive function amid the Spanish invasion as well. In 1537, troops led by Manco Inca repelled attackers at Ollantaytambo by turning the terraces into fortifications and inundating the valley floor through river rerouting. This marked a rare triumph for native warriors over the Spanish invaders. The site's layout held its own against advanced European weaponry. In the present day, Ollantaytambo stays populated, standing out as one of the rare Inca locations that operates as an active community. Its roadways follow the ancient Inca pattern, with the original waterways still running, the enduring walls intact, and the terraces yielding harvests as before. This enduring legacy forges an unbroken connection to the era before Columbus, enduring through 500 years of colonization, conflicts, seismic events, and contemporary growth. The craftsmanship at Ollantaytambo echoes patterns observed across our journey. Long ago, societies demonstrated astonishing accuracy and advanced construction skills. From Egypt and Peru to Turkey and Lebanon, early humans mastered handling colossal rocks to attain impressive detail, erecting edifices that persist through centuries or even thousands of years. Methods differed across regions and resources, but the core ingenuity, human ingenuity tackling tough challenges, remained a constant. Before wrapping up with our concluding thoughts, one additional stunning feat of ancient ingenuity deserves a look: the Moai statues of Easter Island, known as Rapa Nui. These enormous carved figures embody one of history's boldest endeavors in sculpting and moving stone, undertaken on one of Earth's most isolated populated specks. Situated in the southeastern Pacific, Easter Island sits over 2,000 miles from the closest significant continent. The landmass measures a modest 63 square miles, born from volcanoes, and lacks abundant resources. Still, from about 1250 to 1500 CE, the Rapa Nui inhabitants sculpted and raised almost 900 gigantic stone icons scattered over the terrain. Moai sizes differ, though most reach around 13 feet in height and tip the scales at about 14 tons. The tallest raised one, named Pero, towers more than 32 feet and masses roughly 82 tons. Yet even grander is an unfinished Moai, abandoned in the Rano Raraku quarry. If completed and relocated, this colossus would have soared nearly 70 feet and exceeded 270 tons. Artisans shaped the figures from the soft volcanic tuff at the Rano Raraku site, employing handheld stone tools known as toki, though the material yields somewhat easily. Fashioning a 14-ton figure with basic implements demanded immense dedication and expertise. The sculptors shaped the rock while it remained connected to the underlying bedrock, first forming the front and sides, then cutting beneath the rear and bottom to free the figure. After completion, these moai needed to be hauled to their intended spots, often miles away from the quarry. The mystery of how this happened puzzled archaeologists for years. These figures are bulky and cumbersome to shift. The island lacked abundant trees, and when Europeans reached it in the 18th century, nearly all the forests had vanished. How did a modest group of people relocate such enormous items without beasts of burden, without carts, without evident supplies? Numerous ideas have surfaced and been examined. An initial concept held that the statues were dragged flat on wooden platforms by crowds of folks gripping ropes. Tests in experimental archaeology confirmed this is feasible, but it demands huge exertion and plenty of wood for supports and runners. A fresher, captivating idea from researchers Terry Hunt and Carl Lipo posits that the moai were maneuvered standing up to their sites via ropes tied to the head. Groups tugging from varied directions could sway the figure back and forth, advancing it in a stepping-like rhythm. The figure's angled stance and rounded base actually aid such motion. Back in 2012, Hunt and Lipo proved this approach using a 10-foot, 5-ton replica moai. Only 18 individuals with 3 ropes guided the statue over a meadow. It glided steadily with a clear rocking stride. This technique aligns with local folklore, claiming the moai, quote, won to their bases. It could be a straightforward account of the relocation process. Upon arrival, the moai were raised onto stone foundations known as ahu. Hoisting a 14-ton colossus upright called for advanced ingenuity. The probable technique used a stone ramp constructed behind the ahu, incrementally prying the statue higher with levers and piling rocks underneath, easing it bit by bit into an upright stance until it could settle onto the platform. Initially, the moai featured eyes crafted from white coral, accented with red stone or black obsidian pupils. Inserting these eyes was thought to awaken the statue, granting it the ability to impart mana, a sacred energy, to the people. The moai gazed toward the interior, guarding the settlements they oversaw. What's truly astonishing is that this vast endeavor unfolded on an island short on essentials. The Rapa Nui meticulously stewarded their surroundings to support both their numbers and the statue-making efforts. Studies indicate they honed advanced farming methods like rock mulches that shielded crops from gusts and held in water. The statue production halted eventually, likely around the late 1600s or early 1700s. Explanations vary. Overexploitation of the land from tree loss might have rendered further transport unviable. Upheavals in society or shifts in faith could have ceased the tradition. Inter-clan battles may have hampered the coordination for big undertakings. When Europeans landed in 1722, numerous moai lay fallen, perhaps felled amid tribal strife. The inhabitants had shrunk sharply, owing to ecological strain, foreign illnesses, and subsequent captures by Peruvian slavers. The expertise in crafting, shifting, and installing the statues had mostly faded away. The moai embody the profound dedication that past societies devoted to spiritual and societal endeavors. The Rapa Nui poured vast amounts of effort, sustenance, supplies, and manpower into these icons. They devised clever ways to convey huge boulders over rugged ground using basic tools. They kept these initiatives alive for generations, handing down skills and methods through time. The moai also highlight the delicate nature of societies. The Rapa Nui forged wonders, yet their world couldn't endure the mix of growing numbers, dwindling supplies, and internal tensions. These sentinels endure as symbols of both mortal triumphs and frailties, enduring tributes to drive that surpassed the builder's own era. As we delve into vanished ancient innovations and obscured practices, let's address one of the profoundest calamities in history, the obliteration of the Library of Alexandria. This goes beyond a mere structure going up in flames. It's the erasure of wisdom so immense it altered humanity's path. Established circa 300 BCE in Alexandria, Egypt, under Ptolemy I Soter's rule, the library emerged during the time of one of Alexander the Great's commanders, who seized Egypt following Alexander's passing. Alexandria stood as a beacon for scholarship and the arts, with the library poised as its shining gem, a repository meant to gather every scrap of human wisdom, and it came remarkably close to that goal. In its prime, the institution might have housed anywhere from 400,000 to 700,000 papyrus rolls. For context, each roll usually held a single volume or a section of a bigger one, so we're talking about a stash comparable to hundreds of thousands of volumes spanning all areas of ancient expertise: math, stargazing, healing arts, stories, past events, deep thoughts, building techniques, maps of the world, and beyond. Far from simply hoarding texts, the Ptolemaic leaders pursued them with fervor. Incoming vessels at the port got thoroughly inspected. Any volumes discovered were seized, duplicated, and the duplicates handed back to their owners, while the true copies enriched the library's shelves. Visitors who were learnfolk had to hand over their carried books upon arrival. Emissaries from the library scouted places like Athens, Rhodes, and other hubs of intellect to buy or replicate key manuscripts. This effort created an unparalleled hub of information, the likes of which the world had never witnessed. Experts flocked from every corner of the Mediterranean to delve into studies there. The place supported scores of researchers and scribes, featuring spaces for talks, experimental workshops, star-watching towers, areas for anatomical study, and plots dedicated to plant examination. Rather than a quiet archive by today's standards, it functioned as a full-fledged center for inquiry. Some of the era's sharpest intellects toiled at Alexandria. Euclid, whose Elements laid the groundwork for geometry and served as a standard guide for more than 2 millennia. Archimedes, the genius in numbers and contraptions, who pursued his work on site. Eratosthenes, who nailed down the planet's girth about 240 BCE through clever geometric methods and solar sightings. Hipparchus, pioneer of basic trig functions and compiler of precise celestial maps. The healing writings of Galen received close attention there, and the profound ideas of Plato and Aristotle found safe harbor. Yet the library safeguarded texts that have vanished from history. We learn of numerous vanished volumes solely through nods in later writings. Take Aristarchus of Samos, who around 270 BCE floated a sun-centered view of the cosmos, with our world circling it, almost 1,800 years ahead of Copernicus. But his treatise is gone, known only via echoes and other sources. What groundbreaking concepts slumbered in those rolls? What breakthroughs in calculations, treatments, or machines? The answers elude us forever, thanks to the library's demise. That end unfolded not in one dramatic blaze, but through a slow erosion spanning ages. The initial heavy hit came in 48 BCE amid Julius Caesar's strife in the region. He torched the Egyptian ships in the harbor, and the flames leaped to adjacent storage areas holding roughly 40,000 rolls, according to reports. Debate lingers on whether these form the core holdings or backups for trade, but a hefty chunk of lore vanished regardless. The library limped on for hundreds of years more, though with shrinking funds and mounting turmoil. In 272 CE, Emperor Aurelian razed large swaths of Alexandria's Brucheion district in conflict, likely harming the library grounds. By 391 CE, Officials of the Christian faith, wary of old pagan lore, raised the Serapeum, a shrine sheltering a slice of the collection. The last strike possibly arrived in the 7th century CE, with Arab forces taking the city. Certain tales assert Caliph Umar commanded the roll's incineration, declaring, quote 3. That story surfaced long after, though, and could well be legend. During the Arab takeover, the library had probably already faded to a mere whisper of its past splendor. The toll. Clues emerge from allusions in what endured. It cradled output from countless writers whose output has evaporated entirely. Whole categories of old writings linger only in bits or not at all. Scientific and inventive manuscripts from antiquity, which could have propelled progress, sit irretrievably gone. Think of gadgets. The Greeks clearly grasped complex mechanics. As the Antikythera device proves, we recovered. But what other creations escaped our grasp because explanatory writings burned? Hero of Alexandria penned volumes on automated wonders, some intact but plenty missing. What designs hid in the absent ones? Or ponder numbers. Hellenic thinkers unlocked secrets that Europe wouldn't reclaim until the Renaissance or after. What was the toll on mathematical progress when the Library of Alexandria went up in flames? It's clear that Archimedes nearly invented calculus almost 2,000 years ahead of Newton and Leibniz. Imagine if all his writings had endured. How differently might the trajectory of mathematics have unfolded? The erosion of medical expertise stands as yet another profound sorrow. Galen's contributions form the bedrock of medicine through the Middle Ages, though he worked in the 2nd century CE, long after the library's heyday had faded. Earlier treatises on healing from Egyptian, Greek, and diverse other societies simply vanished. Healers of antiquity had gathered lifetimes of hands-on insights into illnesses, remedies, operations, and drug properties. So much of that wisdom evaporated into nothing. The destruction of the Library of Alexandria severed a vital link in the flow of human understanding. For millennia, civilizations had built up immense reservoirs of insight, much of it funneled into Alexandria's halls. With the library's fall, vast portions of that legacy just ceased to exist. Europe in the medieval era labored to rebuild from the scraps that remained, a painstaking effort spanning hundreds of years. Certain manuscripts endured thanks to replication and safeguarding in far-off places like Constantinople, Baghdad, and scattered European monasteries. During the Islamic Golden Age, scholars rescued countless Greek and Roman documents from oblivion, rendering them in Arabic and expanding upon their ideas. Later translations into Latin during the Middle Ages ignited the flames of the Renaissance. Yet we still sense the voids. Volumes we know once existed, but elude discovery. The tale of the Library of Alexandria underscores the precarious nature of wisdom. It demands ages to amass, yet a single instant can obliterate it. All those papyrus rolls, that hard-won erudition, those revelations in math, star tracking, healing, and invention turned to cinders and faded recollections. That's why the disappearance of old-world crafts like Damascus steel, Greek fire, or exact Roman concrete recipes feels so maddening. These weren't mere tricks. They stemmed from eras of testing and honing, handed from teacher to student, polished by endless attempts and failures. Once that lineage snapped, once the records crumbled, once the final expert passed away without an heir, the secrets dissolved. The Library of Alexandria stands as an emblem for every such historical erasure. It warns that advancement isn't guaranteed, that insights can slip away as readily as they emerge, and that safeguarding our discoveries is essential. Each surviving ancient scroll, each safeguarded method, Each relic reaching a gallery embodies lore that dodged ruin, but for each one that made it through, countless others perished. Whenever we puzzle over ancient feats we can't fully grasp or recreate, the library's shadow looms large. We're not examining the full archive of antiquity's genius. Instead, we're sifting through shards that withstood battles, blazes, deluges, disregard, and time's relentless march. The ancients grasped far more than what we can piece together from the remnants. This reality elevates the marvels we still witness to even greater heights. Structures like the pyramids, Stonehenge, Roman water channels, the Antikythera device, intricate masonry at Pumapunku, and Sacsayhuaman. These persisted against all odds. They serve as tangible evidence of long-ago prowess, proof no fire or flood can erase. They endure as monuments to humanity's triumphs, even as the writings that illuminated them have largely faded. Suppose the Library of Alexandria had weathered the storm. What revelations might we hold today? Step-by-step guides to pyramid construction, exhaustive logs of Roman building prowess, thorough catalogs of Greek automata, exhaustive compendiums of medicinal lore from Egyptian, Hellenic, and beyond, mathematical breakthroughs that could have propelled civilization forward by ages. Rather, we inherit only echoes in stone and scraps, intriguing clues to the vanished whole. We act as sleuths of the past, reconstructing lost arts from durable traces, deciphering methods by studying the outcomes instead of the manuals. It's an inverted, exasperating pursuit, yet it's our inheritance. The library's demise urges us to cherish the enduring fragments and guard them fiercely. Every relic of antiquity, every surviving edifice, every tattered page that reaches our era holds incalculable worth. It's a victor amid catastrophe, a shard of insight that outlasted doom, a portal to bygone eras still ajar for us. As this journey draws toward its close, pause to reflect on the recurring motifs spanning cultures, eras, and innovations. We encounter echoing motifs. Early societies mastered extraordinary feats of design that upend our notions of technological evolution. The Antikythera mechanism, constructed more than 2,000 years in the past, features differential gears that didn't resurface for another 1,300 years or so. The qualities of Damascus steel continue to elude our complete replication efforts even now. Concrete from the Romans, applied in harbor constructions, has endured longer than today's versions under comparable stresses. Progress in knowledge doesn't follow a straight path. Innovations can emerge, shine brightly in use, and vanish amid shifting conditions. Examples like Greek fire, the exact methods for crafting Damascus steel, select Roman construction practices, and the comprehensive celestial insights captured at Stonehenge all highlight skills that early societies held, which we eventually had to reinvent or remain unable to match fully. Such recurring patterns instill a sense of modesty in us. We often presume that advancements march steadily forward, that our grasp surpasses that of our forebears, and that contemporary science unlocks doors forever closed to them. Yet the record of the past reveals how expertise can fade away, how early innovators crafted intricate methods absent formal scientific frameworks, and how skills honed across lifetimes can yield outcomes that border on the unbelievable. The exacting work evident at Pumapunku in diorite and within Egyptian stone containers could embody the peak of ages-long refinement, where expert artisans gained an instinctive mastery of substances and processes that today leaves us puzzled. Devoting a lifetime to daily stone handling, drawing wisdom from mentors whose lineages stretch back through eras, fosters talents that appear enchanted to distant eyes, but stem purely from steadfast proficiency. The colossal masonry at Baalbek, Easter Island, and numerous megalithic locations serves as a testament to how unified human efforts, driven by firm purpose, can surmount feats that defy belief. Shifting boulders of 1,000 tons? Absolutely. Given sufficient manpower, time, meticulous strategy, and unwavering dedication to the objective. The stellar expertise woven into Stonehenge, the pyramids, and possibly Göbekli Tepe indicates that our ancestors were diligent watchers of the natural world, building insights across countless generations. Lacking telescopes or advanced math, they monitored heavenly patterns, forecasted solar eclipses, and oriented structures with accuracy that continues to awe. The advanced design of Roman aqueducts, Persian qanats, and Nabatean water networks demonstrates that early engineers grasped fluid dynamics, materials expertise, and oversight of vast endeavors. They erected systems enduring for thousands of years, frequently surpassing current counterparts in durability and dependability. So, what lessons emerge from this? We ought to temper our certainty about the boundaries of ancient accomplishments. We should engage with historical sites through admiration and true inquisitiveness, avoiding hasty dismissals of the improbable. We must remain receptive to updating our views as fresh discoveries arise, much like with Göbekli Tepe and the Antikythera mechanism. At the same time, we should steer clear of invoking extraterrestrials, vanished advanced societies, or other fanciful notions, when plain human resourcefulness and labor suffice to explain the evidence. The reality that people erected these structures, pioneered those inventions, and attained such exactness via talent and resolve proves far more motivating than any imagined tale. Admitting we don't completely grasp a technique isn't claiming it's unattainable or otherworldly. It's owning up to gaps in our comprehension, conceding that age-old methods perfected through dedicated lives evade simple lab recreations. It's valuing the unspoken wisdom transmitted from teacher to student via direct involvement, which produces effects that baffle the uninitiated. The world of antiquity brimmed with astute innovators who watched intently, tested methodically, layered prior learnings, and realized extraordinary feats. Their triumphs outweighed setbacks by a wide margin. Those victories endure around us, etched in rock, safeguarded in arid expanses, operational even after ages. No outlandish theories are needed to account for them. Instead, they call on us to honor the intellect of our predecessors, to value the strength of inherited wisdom, and to recognize that well-directed and inspired human potential can achieve the phenomenal. Ponder how Roman concrete from 2 millennia ago excels modern blends in saltwater settings. Consider our ongoing uncertainty in fully reproducing Damascus steel. Weigh the multi-generational vigilance demanded to inscribe Stonehenge's cosmic records. Contemplate the coordination required to erect Göbekli Tepe prior to the dawn of farming. These feats aren't isolated bursts of genius. They're the result of knowledge piling up across countless generations. The skilled artisan in ancient Egypt who shaped incredibly accurate stone containers drew from methods passed down by their mentor, who in turn had inherited them from predecessors stretching back through years or even ages. The Roman designer of an aqueduct drew on concepts honed from prior endeavors, improved by hands-on trials and keen insights. That's the real way human progress unfolds, not in dramatic jumps, but via steady buildup. One era contributes a bit more insight, tweaks skills just a touch, uncovers fresh uses for old ideas as time goes on. This builds abilities that strike outsiders as downright enchanting, yet they're merely the outcome of focused mastery sustained over ages. When that lineage snaps due to conflict, societal breakdown, the destruction of archives, or shifts in economy that render trades obsolete, expertise can vanish with startling speed. Abilities forged over hundreds of years might evaporate in just one lifetime without successors to inherit them. It's what befell Damascus steel, specific Roman construction methods, and the advanced star-watching wisdom of many old societies. The ancients grasped this truth. That's the reason they used stone for enduring creations. That's why they raised enduring landmarks to weather the fall of their own worlds. The pyramids, Stonehenge, the Moai, the shrines and strongholds, these weren't made solely for their era, but for all time. They were designed to endure beyond their makers, preserving vital wisdom or significance, even if the society that birthed them faded away. And indeed, they endured. These structures have weathered dynasties, faiths, tongues. They remain as evidence of the ancient world's extraordinary prowess. They show our forebears were just as sharp and inventive as anyone today. They reveal that humanity's triumphs reach deep into history. As you ease into slumber this evening, let your thoughts roam these timeless places. Picture the enormous blocks at Baalbek aligned with such exactness that the seams are nearly invisible. Listen to the reverberations inside the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid, humming at tones the constructors might have planned or not. Sense the polished finish of a prehistoric stone container, etched so finely it feels like sleek glass. Envision the laborers at Göbekli assembling periodically to sculpt and erect their towering columns, crafting something epic long before farming took root. Visualize the sky tracking at Stonehenge, where successive groups of watchful priests or seers monitored the paths of sun and moon, imprinting that lore into positioned rocks. Ponder the artisans of antiquity, the stoneworkers who devoted lifetimes to mastering granite and andite with accuracy that still stuns us. The metal experts who tirelessly tested various ores and processes until forging a steel unmatched for ages. The builders who planned aqueducts and cats that operate even now. Millennia later, imagine the Rapa Nui on their isolated isle, laboring without cease to hew moai from lava stone, hauling them over the terrain to their bases, hoisting them up to guard their settlements. Witness the Nazca in Peru's arid wastes, methodically clearing pebbles to form vast lines and shapes that would persist for thousands of years, weaving their rituals and convictions into the earth itself. These weren't extraterrestrials or superhumans. They were ordinary people like you and me, equipped with identical mental tools, the same potential for growth and innovation. What set them apart, which we occasionally forfeit, was patience. Lifetimes committed to honing particular arts, fueled by needs for sustenance, faith, and zeal that propelled them to tackle what looked unattainable. Their successes serve as a reminder that people have forever possessed the power for excellence. We've consistently faced obstacles and devised fixes. We've perpetually expanded on the legacies of our forerunners, weaving in fresh insights, handing it onward to descendants. The enigmas that linger, the methods we haven't quite reclaimed, the intentions we can merely speculate about. These aren't vexing voids. They're calls to action, calls to examine with greater care, to test with deeper intent, to engage the old world with the reverence it merits. Rest easy this night, assured that humanity's tale is one of unbroken progress, of hurdles cleared and trials conquered, of wisdom acquired, occasionally misplaced, then reclaimed. The old builders and makers would likely grin to learn their efforts continue to baffle and awe us eons on. That's a form of eternal life. Their ingenuity and commitment, etched into rock and bronze, continue to educate and evoke awe in us today. Those enormous boulders will remain in place come morning, joined with uncanny precision. The exact orientations will keep directing us toward the solstice light. Those old contraptions will guard their mysteries, ready for deeper insights from us. Such feats have endured for ages. They'll weather one more evening as you unwind. Allow the echoes of antiquity to guard your slumber. Stonehenge beneath the very constellations mapped by long-ago stargazers. The pyramids enduring steadfastly across 45 centuries. Quebec, interred yet intact. Poised for another dawn when excavators uncover fresh enigmas. The Moai, mute sentinels on Easter Island, gazing endlessly over a sea that meets the sky. The Nazca lines etched into the sands, anticipating the next dawn's rays to sharpen their outlines through shifting shadows. Pleasant dreams from an era where the impossible didn't exist, merely the profoundly challenging, and where resolute, ingenious souls achieved feats that reverberate across time, seizing our fancy, urging us to recall our potential when united in pursuit of ambitions beyond the ordinary. Recharge fully, and who knows, maybe a fresh find tomorrow will slot into the enigma of our extraordinary history. Maybe a rusted gear from a sunken vessel, or a meticulously shaped rock from an overlooked pit, or a buried structure unveiled by cutting-edge scans. Antiquity retains tales to impart, insights to impart, marvels to unveil. Good night, courtesy of those timeless builders, sky watchers, artisans, and visionaries who stared down the improbable and chose to act, who confronted barriers and devised fixes, who crafted enduring monuments to surpass their own epochs by millennia, who gifted us this profound heritage of human triumph, inscribed in granite and alloy, in arid tracings and soil formations, in flawless seams and celestial bearings. Drift off peacefully, aware that you belong to the identical saga they inhabited. The continuous thread of inquisitiveness and ingenuity linking back to that initial soul who grasped a rock and pondered its possibilities. Good night.